Welcome to the fantasy audiobook. Dragon Ball. Sign in, obtain the immortal body at the beginning. Chapter 41. It seems that the means are still too gentle. Li Shu sighed, and his gaze at the 8 people gradually became cold. He had lost his patience and decided to kill these people directly, even if it caused a gap between him and Goku, he would not hesitate to do so. Just then, a loud siren sounded in the distance. 2 police cars came at a gallop, and a beautiful drift stopped in front of Li Shu and the others. Who called the police? 2 police officers, a man and a woman, walked down from the police car, and the male police officer asked with a small notebook. The female police officer looked around, and when she saw the blood books all over the ground and the 8 ruffians, she suddenly understood, waved her hand and said, "It doesn't matter who reported to the police, these are habitual offenders, take them all back." Huang, Mao and the others, who were sitting on the ground, were all excited the moment they saw the police, as if they saw their own father and mother. Yes, it's our own police who have arrested us, and put us in prison quickly. Huang Mao seemed to see a savior, and excitedly grabbed the hand of the male police officer, and kept urging. The others were the same, eager to be captured. Ding! Achievement quest ring. Punish rape and eradicate evil. The current progress is to 300s, and you will get a reward after the progress is completed. Hero title, achievement value plus 5,000. Li Shu couldn't help but be stunned. This is done. But this progress seems a little wrong, isn't there 8 people? Why did you get 1 point of progress? However, after thinking about it carefully, Li Shu also figured it out. This punishment of rape and evil is not calculated according to the head, but according to the event. As long as one treacherous thing is solved, the mission should be completed. It seems that I thought it was complicated from the beginning, and I knew that I would call the police directly. Li Shu couldn't help but smile bitterly. At this time, the female police officer walked over to him, and after making some simple inquiries, she quickly left with the 8 people. After the incident, the owner of the hotel ran out excitedly and thanked Li Shu. "Sir, you have done a great thing." Quote, "Yes, after this lesson, they should not dare to do evil again." Another resident said, "You are our hero." The residents came out one after another, not sparing their praises and praising Li Shu. In order to thank Li Shu for driving out the wicked for them, the residents sent their own gifts. The owner of the restaurant is the most realistic. He said that he would return the money for the meal to Li Shu, which was a huge sum of 500,000 yuan. Wukong looked at this scene blankly, and in the understanding just now, he also knew the evil deeds of those wicked people, which was indeed disgusting. He somewhat understood the eldest brother's behavior. Even if the eldest brother killed these people, he would not think that the eldest brother had done wrong. Looking at Wukong, whose brows had been stretched out, and he was smirking in the appreciation of the residents, Li Shu's mood was also good. Saying goodbye to the residents, Li Shu and Wukong continued to fly towards Masruta in the north. "Big brother, is there really such a bad person in the world?" Wukong's voice was a little low, and this incident seemed to have affected him a lot. Li Shu also saw the optimistic and naive Wukong for the first time. Showing such an expression, he suddenly became a little curious, and couldn't help asking, what evil things did they do? Quote, "Big brother, do you know what rape means?" Goku asked suspiciously. This, Li Shu is not easy to explain. After all, Wukong is still in the stage of showing his little cock at will, and he doesn't feel embarrassed at all, and he is completely blank in this aspect. Even if he explains, he is afraid that it will be difficult to understand. It takes a lot of time to give Wukong enlightenment education. Li Shukai is too lazy to do this kind of thing. They are self-taught in their time. Doesn't the eldest brother know? Goku was a little disappointed and continued, "I heard from the residents that those wicked people once raped an old lady." Li Shu couldn't hold back in an instant, and looked at Wukong in astonishment. Raping the old lady. The rape was a great blow to the old lady, and she later chose to commit suicide. They also robbed a father of the money he had given his daughter to save her life, and the little girl died in the hospital because she had no money for treatment, and then the father went to settle accounts with them, only to be severely humiliated, and then committed suicide. Wukong kept talking, and Li Shu listened quietly on the side. In Wukong's telling, the evil deeds of the yellow-haired guys can be described as unspeakable. Li Shu, who once lived in the era of big data, has actually seen these evil deeds quite often, except for raping the old lady, which is simply outrageous. Therefore, when he heard about these crimes, Li Shu's heart did not have much turmoil, but he regretted it a little. He shouldn't have cared about Wukong's emotions just now, and he should have slaughtered these scum directly. After knowing the truth, Wukong should be able to understand himself, right? After so many years of getting along, Li Shu has already regarded Wukong as his own brother, and he cares a lot about Wukong's opinion of him. Wukong, I regret it now, I want to turn around and kill them, do you want to be together? Li Shu interrupted Wukong's speech and said seriously. Wukong was silent for a moment, nodded and said, Big brother, I can't do it, but I want to teach them a lesson with my own hands. Li Shu showed a smile, and under his influence, Wukong's personality seemed to have undergone a subtle change. Immediately, the two turned around in an instant and quickly chased in the direction of the police car. Wukong, they are in the police car after all, and the nature of things has changed, so we can't reveal our identities. Li Shu looked down and said murderously. Wukong nodded as if he didn't understand, only to see a full moon slowly rising between Li Shu and his hand. Transform, you fight first, and I'll clean up the aftermath after the fight. Two police cars sped down the road, each escorting 4 criminals. In the police car driven by the female police officer, Huang Mao shouted, I said police officer, we are already old acquaintances, you know, even if we are arrested, at most it will be a matter of picking quarrels and provoking troubles for a few days, it is better to let us go now, everyone will save a little trouble. Also, I'm going to call the police. It was the man who was beating us, and we were the victims. Hurry up and call reinforcements to arrest that man, too. He's so strong, I'm afraid you two won't be able to subdue him. Quote. Shut up. The chattering yellow hair annoyed the female police officer. To be honest, she was also full of helplessness about this kind of ruffian. Caught every once in a while, caught and released and caught, she was indeed a little annoyed, and she couldn't wait to shoot this group of fools. But they are disciplined and can't do that. She kept wondering, when will these idiots hit the hard stubble? And then he was beaten to death directly. Then, I received a call from the police to collect the body, which was really cool. Jing Yuya never thought that the thing she fantasized about would really happen. It's just that the scene in front of her is a little different from what she imagined. 2 fierce giant apes blocked their way. The fierce aura that came to the face made people shudder, and a touch of fear was spreading in their hearts. I'm sorry, we didn't mean to offend, we just wanted to teach these scoundrels a lesson. One of the giant apes spoke and seemed quite polite. Jing Yuya and another male police officer were already frightened, sitting in the car at a loss, watching this scene dumbfounded. Soon the giant ape lifted their police car like pinched ants, and put the 2 police officers down safely. Then he shook the car body frantically and poured out the villains inside like beans. After falling from high school, Huang Mao and the others immediately let out a painful wail, and they had multiple fractures all over their bodies. What kind of monster is this? Huang Mao and the others were also frightened, crawled towards the 2 police officers who were stunned, and begged for help, help us. Come and save us. What are you kidding? Ask for yourselves. The male officer's eyes widened, his whole body trembled uncontrollably, and he said ruthlessly. While Jing Yuya was afraid, she also watched this scene excitedly, hoping that these 2 giant apes would immediately trample on this group of scum. The giant ape Wukong didn't suppress the violent aura in his body too much, and even took the initiative to let a wisp of violent aura invade his mind. He grabbed it with both hands, grabbed the yellow hair and others who were rolling all over the ground in his hands, and then shook it wildly. After a few laps, Huang Mao and the others were already foaming at the mouth and convulsing. The giant ape Wukong threw them to the ground, and the sound of bones shattering came and went. Apparently all the bones in his body had been broken. He stretched out another finger and kept poking at Huang Mao and the others. It's too weak. Soon, Goku the giant ape loses interest in them, and he is not a person who likes to bully the weak. Seeing that the giant ape did not kill this group of scum, a trace of disappointment flashed in Jing Yuya's eyes, and she was even a little angry. In the end, she had to call an ambulance to take the scum to the hospital for treatment. But soon, another giant ape made a move, only to see a few green beans fly out of his hand and burrow into the mouths of Huang Mao and the others. Huang Mao and the others, who had already fainted in pain, were instantly resurrected with full blood. Such a familiar feeling made the yellow hare's pupils shrink suddenly. Demon! It's the demon that's coming. Huang Mao was frightened and desperate to escape from this place. Li Shu watched this scene playfully, like pinching an ant, pinched the yellow hare, and flicked his lower body with his other hand. The sound of broken eggs suddenly sounded, and all the male compatriots present couldn't help but clamp their legs, except for Wukong. Next, the rough voice of the giant ape Li Shu hovered in the air. One by one, they pinched them up and did the same thing. Soon, the 8 people present all became eunuchs, clutching their crotches on the ground and wailing in pain, bleeding all over the ground. In such a harsh environment, castration carries a great risk of death. After a while, Huang Mao and the others didn't know whether they had lost too much blood or were dying of pain, and they had no movement or breath. Old lady, I have avenged you. Li Shu muttered, and turned around and left with Wukong. Ding! Achievement Quest Ring. Punish rape and eliminate evil. The current progress is 3/300, and you will get a reward after the progress is completed. Hero title, achievement value plus 5,000. Jing Yuya looked at the 8 corpses that died tragically on the ground, and her complicated feelings could not be calmed down for a long time. On the other side, Li Shu and Wukong, who had been lifted from their transformations, put on their new clothes again and continued to move towards Masruta in the north. Haha, they actually hurt to death. It's the first time I've seen such a way of dying. Goku smiled innocently. Li Shu couldn't help but breathe a sigh of relief when he saw this. It seems that this incident did not have any bad impact on Wukong. To Li Shu's surprise, the progress of the task of punishing adultery and eliminating evil has increased a little again. Is it because of the reason for helping the old lady to take revenge? This reminded him a lot, and he also had new ideas about how to accomplish this task. After this incident, every time Li Shu passed through a village or town, he would choose to stay for a while, deliberately showing some money, to see if he could meet someone who was destined, and let him brush up on the progress of the task of punishing adultery and eliminating evil. The full 5,000 achievement points were so tempting that he didn't know how to spend them. Red Ribbon Corps Headquarters. Colonel Saruba stood in front of the Commander-in-Chief with a heavy face. How did you promise me before you went? The Commander-in-Chief said with a dissatisfied face. A trace of embarrassment flashed on Colonel Saruba's face, and he hurriedly said, Report to the Commander-in-Chief, I have underestimated the enemy, and I am willing to be punished. Quote. Punishment. The Commander-in-Chief said with a playful face. You are also an old man of the Legion, you know that our Red Ribbon Legion does not raise waste. I hope the Commander-in-Chief will give me another chance, I have brought back important information. Colonel Saruba pleaded. Oh, what intelligence. They're not people. That's what you call important intelligence. The Commander-in-Chief's face was a little unpleasant. This is only the first important information, and the second important information is that they can transform into giant apes, which have extremely strong destructive power, and the latest weapon that Dr. Groh has researched has no effect on them. Speaking of this, Colonel Saruba looked frightened. The Commander-in-Chief was finally moved. He knew all too well how powerful the weapon Dr. Groh had researched. It can be said that the reason why the Red Ribbon Legion has achieved today's achievements is due to Dr. Groh's contributions, and the thermal weapons he has developed are very important. It can also be said that the Red Ribbon Legion was created by Dr. Groh. You can escape from them and bring back such important information, and it doesn't seem to be that wasteful. The Commander-in-Chief praised. But this compliment fell on the ears of Colonel Saruba, but it was so harsh and sarcastic. He smiled bitterly. They took the initiative to let me back, and even saved my life. Saved your life and let you come back? Is there something you want to bring to me? The Commander-in-Chief asked. Not bad. Colonel Saruba continued. There was a magical bean in the monster's hand. I was seriously injured and dying at the time, but after eating that magical bean, my injury recovered instantly and my body returned to its peak condition. This is the third important piece of information I brought back. And such a miraculous bean. Looking at Saruba, who had an inviting face, the Commander-in-Chief pursed his lips and asked, What did he ask you to bring? Colonel. Saruba took a deep breath and said solemnly, He said that let's prepare the collected Dragon Balls, and he will take them in 7 days. Quote. Hearing such arrogant remarks, the Commander-in-Chief couldn't help laughing. Does he think that our Red Ribbon Legion only has thermal weapons? To be the enemy of our Red Ribbon Legion is to seek death. After the commander-in-chief sneered, he muttered, it seems that they are also collecting Dragon Balls and know the secrets of Dragon Balls. And their Dragon Ball radar, which is more compact and accurate, can be carried around. Colonel Saruba said, glancing at the huge radar screen. What? That's impossible. Our Dragon Ball radar, but it cost a lot of money and time, and theirs is actually better than ours. The commander-in-chief said with some anger. Then even their Dragon Ball radar will be snatched together. Is there anything else you want to say? Colonel Saruba hesitated for a moment and said, report to the commander-in-chief. I don't think we are his opponents, and it is not a wise choice to compete with them for the Dragon Balls, I suggest. The commander-in-chief's face was full of displeasure, and he stopped Saruba from continuing, apparently not listening. Colonel Saruba wanted to say something, but felt that something was wrong with the atmosphere, so he finally chose to shut up and turn to leave. But what he didn't know was that the silence he chose this time would be permanent. At the moment when he turned around, a gunshot rang out behind him, and a sharp pain suddenly came from his chest, and he soon lost consciousness. Saruba fell to the ground with a shocked face, and until the moment before he died, he did not think that he had not died at the hands of the monster, but at the hands of his own people. And he died at the hands of the commander-in-chief whom he respected the most. Do you still want to take credit? Do you want me to give up competing for Dragon Ball? What stupid rubbish. The commander-in-chief waved his hand and ordered Saruba's body to be dragged down. Call General Blue over. Looking at the signal on the giant Dragon Ball radar, the commander-in-chief said again, inform General White who is sitting in Masruda of the information just now. Quote, Masruda is also a branch of the Red Ribbon Legion, headed by the White Commander, General White, who is far superior to Colonel Saruba. Moreover, Masruda has a lot of organs, and there are androids and purple ninjas and monsters big fat dragon, and he is full of confidence in this. After receiving the instructions, General White replied with confidence, don't worry, Commander-in-Chief, I have already found a Dragon Ball here, as long as they dare to come and grab it, I will let them come and go, and present the Dragon Ball radar and Dragon Ball. The Commander-in-Chief warned, Colonel Saruba has failed and been executed by me, I hope you will not let me down. Quote, after hanging up Masruda's communication, General Blue came on order. The Commander-in-Chief repeated the previous events, and then said, now lead your entire blue team to Masruda to receive the Dragon Balls and Dragon Ball radar, and then collect the remaining Dragon Balls. Quote, General Blue is the most formidable of their Red Ribbon Legion, and he has full confidence in him as well. Leaving the task of collecting Dragon Balls in the hands of General Blue, he is also very relieved. General Blue was handsome, holding a rose in his hand, and took on the task with confidence on his face. On the other side, Li Shu, who was sitting on the dinosaur's lap, had a look of disappointment on his face. Along the way, he passed through 7 villages and towns, large and small, but he did not meet a single person who was destined to do so. The progress of punishing adultery and eliminating evil is still at 3, and the full progress of 300 seems to be far away. The smooth beginning, and the successive encounters with destined people, made him subconsciously ignore the original difficulty of this task. Now that I think about it, if I want to make a full progress of 300, I am afraid that it will not be able to be completed without 3 years and 5 years without this mechanism that is not counted by the head and by the event. Big brother, it's so cold. Not long after the two of them went deep into the north, the bad cold weather was a little unbearable with Wukong's physique. Li Shu was also cold, so he hurriedly took out 2 sets of cotton clothes and changed them with Wukong. Wukong, this is also the way we have to practice. Li Shu said again. After collecting the Dragon Balls, the eldest brother plans to be a hero who walks the world, punishing adultery and eliminating evil. Do you want to be with the eldest brother? Quote, a hero who walks the world. Is it a new way of practice? Wukong obviously didn't understand the meaning of punishing the evil and the hero. Sort of, but the improvement of strength is not very obvious. The main thing is to cultivate the mind, which can make us understand the world more clearly. Maybe there will be some unexpected gains, who knows? Li Shu took a bite of the dinosaur leg under his crotch and said beautifully. This mount, which can be eaten and used as a weapon, is really worry-free. Big brother, give me some to eat. Wukong drove the somersault cloud closer, and opened his mouth to bite. The dinosaur's legs swayed, and he sensitively avoided Wukong's bloody mouth, screaming at Wukong's wow and wah, and chased a nod behind him, and Li Shu laughed when he saw it. Masruda Command Room. Report to General White, 2 non-flying objects have been found in the surveillance footage. General White ordered. Enlarge the picture and let me see if it's the 2 men, the commander said. As the surveillance footage zoomed in, the people in the command room were stunned. A golden cloud. What kind of flying machine is this? Could it be the legendary somersault cloud? Isn't this thing extinct? General White was puzzled for a moment, and then he recognized the somersault cloud, which was produced in the north, and its legend was known to the old people who lived in the north, and he had been in the north for many years, so he naturally learned of this legend. I didn't expect to be able to see it with my own eyes today, and General White's heart suddenly became hot, but it was quickly extinguished. Even if you grab it, it's useless. This thing can only be controlled by a person with a pure heart, and he is obviously no longer there. The somersault cloud is understandable, but what is that flying roasted dinosaur leg that is charred on the outside and tender on the inside? And it seems that it is still emitting heat, which is a bit outrageous, completely beyond the scope of General White's comprehension. In the command room, everyone who saw this picture had a question mark on their faces. But that's not the point, and they quickly turned their attention to Li Shu and Wukong. It's them, big and small, monsters with tails, exactly the same as the news from headquarters. General, do you need to take them down? A soldier asked. That shit in Saruba said they weren't afraid of our munitions. General White looked dismissive. Why am I so disbelieving? Call me. With General White's order, the artillery erected on Masruda was all aimed at the 2 targets flying in the distance. Fire. Rumble. Rumble. The deafening sound of artillery fire came and went, and countless powerful fires soared into the sky. Li Shu, who was chasing and playing with Wukong, suddenly moved the tip of his nose, smelled a little bit of danger, and was rapidly approaching them. Although this little danger will not cause much harm to him, it will still feel pain. Wukong, fly higher. As soon as Li Shu spoke, he rose hundreds of meters above the clouds. Wukong didn't have a fighting nose, so he followed for some reason, and he was about to ask when he saw countless fires below whizzing past their original location. I saw that those shells hit the lonely mountain in the distance and made a violent roar, setting off countless winds and snow, and the mountain trembled violently, causing a large avalanche in an instant. Someone is sneaking up on us, Wukong said angrily. Li Shu frowned and looked in the direction where the shells were coming from. First of all, he didn't offend anyone here. Secondly, this firepower is a bit fierce, and it should hurt a lot if you don't transform into a giant ape. Sneak attack. Not talking about martial arts, which made Li Shu very angry. Why did you attack me? Li Shu thought for a moment, and once again summoned the holographic Dragon Ball radar, magnifying the picture of the 2 planets. Sadly, the picture is empty, and the 2 planets lie quietly in a beautiful box. After trying to adjust the angle and distance, nothing was found except that it was a treasure room, full of gold and silver treasures. It's a pity that the position of this eye is not plugged in properly. Li Shu turned off the picture regretfully, but he already had a rough guess in his heart. Judging by the firepower of the opposing side, it is clear that it is an extremely strong armed force. Maybe you entered the other party's airspace. With the memories of more than 20 years ago, Li Shu could not recall what place Masruda was and what the forces were. However, judging from the other party's means of not talking about martial arts, it is not a good stubble. Could it be the forces of the Red Ribbon Legion? Li Shu suddenly had a flash of inspiration. Such a powerful private arm. It seems that in the Dragon Ball world, there is only the Red Ribbon Army, right? Because his memory was too long, Li Shu did not remember that there were other powerful armed forces. The more he thought about it, the more Li Shu felt that it was very likely. In the original book, in the process of collecting Dragon Balls, Wukong's most powerful opponent was the Red Ribbon Army. And there have been many conflicts. It makes sense when you think about it this way. Saruba must have reported his information to the headquarters, and after they learned where they went, they informed the forces in the north of Masruda, so they will attack so decisively after seeing me. So the 2 planets are in their hands. In this way, it will be easy to do, and there is no psychological burden to grab it directly. Quote, It can also brush up on the progress of punishing rape and eliminating evil, which is perfect. Thinking of this, Li Shu became excited, and things that kill two birds with one stone can always make people full of motivation. For such a tall tower, there must be a lot of enemies, so it shouldn't just give me 1 point of progress, right? On the other side, the Masrita command. General White looked at the surveillance footage in disbelief. They even dodged the attack. How strong is it to have a sense of crisis and reaction to do this? Go on. I don't believe I can't beat them. With General White's order, the dense firelight instantly lit up. However, all of this was no threat to Li Shu, who had the nose of battle, and he could always dodge these attacks before danger came. Dodging once can be said to be accidental, but if you can dodge such a dense attack again and again, then there is only one possibility. I'm afraid that the other party is really, as Colonel Saruba said, the other party is ridiculously strong, and the attacks of these thermal weapons have no effect on them. After seeing it with his own eyes, he had to admit that there was a reason for the waste in Saruba. Open all the traps of Masrita, and wait for them to die. General White stopped the useless means of attack and started a new round of ambush plans, intending to catch turtles in an urn. With the powerful combat power mastered by Masrita, he has absolute confidence that Li Shu and Sun Wukong will never return. Masrita's repeated attacks successfully angered Li Shu and Wukong, and he instantly started a full-speed sprint, and the distance between him and Masrita was rapidly narrowed. Since they don't talk about martial arts, we don't need to salute first and then soldier, Wukong, we will directly transform and kill them later. Li Shu's face was cold, and under the baptism of the wind, the edges and corners of his face became more distinct. Big brother, I want to try my limits. The battle after transforming into a giant ape is too boring. However, Goku doesn't like crushing battles and rejects Li Shu's offer. Li Shu was not surprised by this. After all, this is Wukong's character. Changing a person's personality is no less difficult than changing a person's personality. If you think about it carefully, if you really lose the purpose of cultivation by crushing all the way, your personal strength will not be trained. If I'm not mistaken, Dao Baibai, who is known as the #1 killer in the world, has not yet made a move, and the great demon king of Vic after the next martial arts conference is over, they are all strong opponents. But these are easy to solve, for him and Wukong after transforming into a giant ape, these are scum, and they can't be regarded as opponents anymore, and they can barely be regarded as sparring partners under normal conditions. The main enemies are Raditz, Nappa, and Vegeta, the 3 last Saiyans, who came to Earth a few years later. Because they also have the ability to transform into giant apes. However, for Li Shu, who has been able to transform into a Super Saiyan, he is still not a powerful enemy, and can only be regarded as a high-level sparring partner. Thinking of this, Li Shu agreed to Wukong's proposal and took the opportunity to hone his combat awareness. But to be honest, Li Shu prefers to crush. Although he has Saiyan blood, he is not very warlike in his bones, and he can always suppress the belligerent gene in Saiyan blood. Now he is in a very good state, he can play the world, and no one can beat him, and the enemy who can really be regarded as an opponent will have to wait until Frieza appears. At the rate at which his current strength is improving, when Frieza appears, I'm afraid he will only be a more advanced sparring partner. It's a little stressful, but it's not a big feeling. With just a little shot and a little effort, you're already invincible. Li Shu and Wukong have come to the sky above Masrita at this moment, looking down on this tower, and they can clearly see the figures inside through the glass. A muscular man with a strong body was also looking at them through the window, with a sneer on his face. The muscular man was none other than General White, and his voice came through the microphone from the loudspeaker placed outside the tower. It seems that the failure of that waste in Saruba has made your self-confidence a little overinflated, and you dare to come here to seek death. Ding! Trigger the achievement quest. Destroy Masrita, which rewards Breath Almighty. The smile on Li Shu's face gradually expanded, and it seemed that he was going to kill 3 birds with 1 stone. Thinking that there will be another achievement value in the account, Li Shu is in a very good mood. He now has 74 points of achievement, and he plans to save up to 100 points and rush a wave of Invisibility Epiphany Potion which is bound to succeed in comprehension in one fell swoop. Then he raised the primary Immortal bean can a little, and with the speed at which he squandered the Immortal beans, the yield of 1 piece a day was a bit insufficient. When the time comes, when punishing rape and eliminating evil, he will become a barefoot doctor, first beat him half to death, and then feed a fairy bean. Maybe he can get stuck with a bug and trigger the achievement of saving lives and helping the wounded. Dare to come in. I have a 2-planet here. General White said excitedly, full of confidence in Masruda. Then you're welcome. Li Shu smiled, landed on the ground with Wukong, pushed open the door of Masruda, and walked in without the slightest hesitation. Combat strength. 5 combat effectiveness. 5 combat effectiveness. 5. As soon as he entered, Li Shu saw a group of scumbags of war, looking at them with a playful face. He was a little funny, but he really didn't understand where they got their confidence. Come to think of it, these forces that rely on powerful weapons to dominate one side do not understand that in the face of the truly strong, the tactics of crowds are meaningless. Just like Colonel Saruba, he thinks he is strong when he is 1 against 10, and he is undoubtedly a frog at the bottom of the well. This reminded Li Shu of Satan, who performed live in front of Shalu to split tiles with his bare hands as a way to show his strength. Even after more than 20 years, thinking of this picture now makes him want to laugh. Ha ha, one didn't hold back. Li Shu laughed, and hurriedly said, I'm sorry, I suddenly thought of something happy. The warriors of the first layer of Masruda suddenly turned gloomy, and they were actually ridiculed by a hairy boy. They twisted their bodies, pressed their finger bones, or twisted their necks, forcing the bones to make gurgling noises and make a ferocious appearance to increase their momentum. Boy, you just bring a little ghost to break into our Masruda, it's not enough for us to stuff our teeth, or go home to find your mother, and bring your mother with us to make us happy. A soldier with a beard and a blue cap walked slowly towards them. The smile on Li Shu's face disappeared at this moment, and his gaze became extremely cold, looking at the soldier indifferently. Bang! A muffled sound suddenly rose, and Li Shu instantly appeared in front of the soldier, punching him in the crotch of his pants, and the huge force made his whole person bow into greater than, and the unbearable pain was too late. The soldier's eyes bulged out, his mouth opened wide, but no sound came out, only an intermittent, hey, sound, and then he fell to the ground clutching his bleeding pants, squirming wildly. Except for Wukong, no one could see Li Shu's movements clearly, the speed like teleportation, and the ruthless methods, which made the other soldiers shudder, and their faces changed drastically, and cold sweat the size of beans involuntarily broke out on their foreheads. Li Shu looked at the soldier indifferently and took out a fairy bean for him to forcibly eat. What's your mother's name? Where to stay? After dealing with Masruda, I'm going to go and have fun with her. Li Shu pressed a finger against the chin of the soldier who had recovered from his wounds, and pushed him from the ground into the air. Such a terrifying power brought a great shock to the soldiers present, as well as to General White, who was monitoring the back. The soldier's face was full of horror, and he felt as if the finger was about to poke into his chin. What scared him the most was the other party's words and the indifferent expression. Even if they are evildoers, few people can be indifferent to the threats to their mothers. You'll tell me. Li Shu popped his eggs again and stabbed him in the jaw. The unbearable pain made the soldier hanging on Li Shu's finger twitch wildly, and blood dripped on the ground with a rattling sound. Wukong, the others are handed over to you, I want to have a good time with him. Li Shu was obviously really angry, and said without looking back. Wukong frowned slightly, but didn't say anything, but rushed towards the other soldiers, none of whom could block his move. After a few seconds, they all fell to the ground, losing their ability to fight, and the fear in their eyes was so thick that they almost overflowed their eyes. But this extreme fear does not come from Goku, but from the demonic man. Goku didn't stop and disappeared into the stairs leading to the second floor. Li Shu was not worried about Wukong's safety at all, and seeing that the soldier was about to die of pain, he took out another fairy bean and forcibly fed it. The mortally wounded and dying soldier suddenly came to life again, but his eyes were full of fear and despair. I won't let you die until I tell me your mother's information and address. Li Shu said softly, like a demon's whisper. The soldiers who collapsed to the ground, after seeing this scene, had a trace of joy in their eyes in addition to fear. Fortunately, they didn't insult the demon's mother at the time, and it seems that even the devil can't stand someone humiliating his mother. They secretly swore in their hearts that they would not make any moves to humiliate each other's closest relatives in the future. And just like that, after wandering back and forth several times from near death to regaining his life, the soldier finally broke down. He cried out bitterly, "Kill me. Please, kill me." Quote, "Name, address," Li Shu said again. The soldier could not bear the torture and finally spoke up, and then cried bitterly, "Kill me. Kill me, please. No, I'm going to take you back to Mom." Li Shu's soft words fell on the soldier's ears like a nuclear explosion, making him instantly deaf, and his whole spirit began to be in a trance. "Wake up." Seeing that the other party's mental state was a little wrong, Li Shu hurriedly fed another fairy bean. The soldier came back to life with full blood again, but his spirit had completely collapsed, and he looked a little out of his mind, shouting incessantly, "Kill me. Kill me. Mom, Mom, I want to go home." Looks crazy. Li Shu threw it on the ground casually, and he didn't get stuck in the achievement bug of saving lives and helping the wounded, which made him have a touch of regret on his face. Immediately, Li Shu's eyes looked at the other soldiers lying on the ground with frightened faces, and suddenly a new idea occurred in his heart. He decided to try the bug of punishing the rape and eliminating the evil. Li Shu walked in front of a soldier, and the soldier was suddenly frightened, and he was directly incontinent, and his body trembled uncontrollably. "What are you afraid of?" Li Shu lifted the soldier from the ground and looked directly at the other party. The soldier felt as if the man's eyes could eat people, and he shivered and trembled even more. "Please spare me," the soldier said tremblingly. Li Shu put him down gently, but the soldier's legs were already frightened, and he couldn't stand at all, and sat on the ground with panic in his eyes. "I need you to answer me a few questions." Li Shu looked at each other condescendingly, with a cold expression. The soldier nodded frantically, and at this moment, a soldier behind him got up and rushed out of the door while Li Shu was not paying attention. At the same time, Li Shu also moved. Although he turned his back to the fleeing soldier, it was as if he had eyes behind him, and he could accurately judge the other party's every move. I saw Li Shu raise his hand and point behind him, and a ray of energy shot out, instantly piercing the heart of the fleeing soldier and killing him with one blow. This sudden scene made the remaining soldiers who had the same intention swallow a mouthful of saliva one after another, and their hearts were full of fear. As if nothing had happened, Li Shu said, "Tell me all the crimes you have done, and if I find out that you have concealed something, you have already seen the end just now. And you all get ready, I'll ask one by one." He turned his head and glanced around the other soldiers. Evil deeds. The soldiers froze for a moment, and now thinking about the evil deeds they had done, they were not worth mentioning in front of this demon. When I was a kid, I used to peek at my neighbor's aunt taking a shower," the soldier whispered. Li Shu looked at the soldier expressionlessly, and said in a deep voice, "I'll give you another chance to rephrase." The soldier rolled his Adam's apple, his forehead was covered with fine sweat, and he said with a little pain, "I killed my own father." Quote, "Very well, it's okay." Li Shu interrupted the soldier's resting narrative. He didn't want to know why. Judging from the results, this crime was already a heinous crime. Li Shu came to the next soldier. "Tell me the biggest crime you've ever committed, such as the father who killed you just now. It's very punishable." The soldier trembled and said, I slept with my neighbor's wife, and when my neighbor found out, I killed all of them." In this way, the remaining soldiers confessed their crimes. I have to say that the crimes committed by these 8 soldiers are enough to be sentenced to death. If all these 8 people are handed over to the police, will it be considered punishment and elimination of evil? I guess so. And it's 8 vicious incidents, right? Li Shu immediately called the police and gave a simple explanation of the situation here, indicating that he had inadvertently smashed a criminal group and hoped that the police would send police to finish it off as soon as possible. "What, Masruda, are you talking about the one that belongs to the Red Ribbon Legion and is located in Masruda, which is located in the north?" When the police officer heard this position, his voice was full of surprise. "You know, even their police are unwilling to offend the Red Ribbon Legion, because the power of this private armed organization can already be described as a warlord. The firepower is much more powerful than their small police station, unless the army can be dispatched. However, even if the army is dispatched, it is difficult to say whether it will win or lose." As far as he knew, not only the weapons and equipment in their police station, but also many advanced weapons and equipment in the army were purchased from the Red Ribbon Legion. The Red Ribbon Legion is already the most powerful arms dealer in the world, not only rich but also powerful. The northern branch of such a behemoth was destroyed by one man. It's unbelievable. In any case, when they received the call to the police, they were required to send police to check on them. Wait a minute, we'll arrange for someone to come over right away. Remember to send a few more escort vehicles. There are quite a few prisoners here. It is estimated that there are dozens of people. Li Shu couldn't help but admonish. Although he had only broken through the first layer so far, it would only take him 60 seconds at most to destroy the entire Masruda if he wanted to. If the bug card is successful, it will be an extremely rich reward, with a 5,000 achievement point reward for the Punish Evil Eradication quest, as well as the title of hero, which can be said to be at your fingertips. Li Shu's behavior at this moment was very strange and incomprehensible in the eyes of the soldiers. Alarm! He actually called the police. The soldiers didn't react for a while, but they were quickly relieved. At least they didn't have to suffer the inhuman torture, and going to prison was not a matter for them at all. They were not afraid at all. With the strength of their Red Ribbon Legion, whether it is the police station, the detention center or the prison, they have to retreat 3 points when they see them, and they have to give face. In the perception of the soldiers, as long as the Red Ribbon Legion is not an enemy of the whole world, then it is invincible. No matter how strong the demon in front of him is, it is impossible to fight a behemoth like the Red Ribbon Legion. As long as they can survive the current crisis, they will inevitably gather more forces to retaliate in the future. Li Shu didn't know what these people were thinking, but he could see that they were puzzled by their behavior of calling the police. Now you have two choices. 1. I'll break your legs. 2. I'll pick 2. Without waiting for Li Shu to finish speaking, the soldiers hurriedly chose the second option and spoke in unison. Very well, the second option is also for me to break your legs. The soldiers suddenly despaired and looked at Li Shu in horror. The sound of broken leg bones rang out one after another, accompanied by screams of pain. In order to prevent these soldiers from escaping, Li Shu not only broke their legs, but also tied them up with ropes, and the police just took them away when they came. After solving the small minions on the first floor, Li Shu walked to the stairs leading to the second floor. At this moment, the Masruda command room. General White's face was full of shock, and beside him stood a ninja dressed in purple. The purple ninja's face was equally full of shock. It wasn't Li Shu who shocked them, but Sun Wukong. As early as when Sun Wukong entered the second floor, their attention was on Sun Wukong. In the eyes of General White, Sun Wukong can defeat 8 elite soldiers in just a few seconds, and his strength is far above Li Shu, so it is naturally more worthy of attention. That imp actually destroyed Colonel Metal with his bare hands. It's an android made entirely of metal. It's a terrible little ghost, but don't worry, the general can rest assured. Colonel Metal is an artificial man after all, and his IQ is not high, but it is just a defective product researched by Dr. Grow, which doesn't mean anything. With me on the third floor, they won't be able to break through. The purple ninja's hands were sealed, and they disappeared with a pop. When Li Shu came to the second floor, it was a messy scene. A headless android was lying motionless on the ground, and a slight electric current could be seen floating on its body, making a zizz sound. What is this android? I don't have any impression at all. This dilapidated artificial man looks more than 2 meters tall, and Li Shu didn't think about it after thinking about it for a long time. It seems to be a defective product. Quote, the appearance of Android 17 and Android 18 is after the Frieza plot, and there is still a long time before now, and there is still a long way to go in the development of androids at this stage. However, judging from the traces of the battle on the spot, Wukong did not win very easily, obviously suffering the first time against the android, and was caught off guard by the loss of inexperience. Judging by the blood stains on the ground, Goku seems to be still slightly injured. Unfortunately, the android had already suffered severe damage, and the Eye of War was unable to capture the combat power and manifest it. Visually inspect the appearance of about 50 combat strength. Li Shu couldn't help but smack his tongue, and had to admit that the doctor behind the Red Ribbon Legion was a real genius. At this stage, such a powerful android can be created. No wonder it can be created in a few years to create an android with the strength of number 17 and no 18. If this doctor is co-opted, there should be a reward for hidden achievements, right? Li Shu had a bold idea. It would be a pity if such a person died. If this genius doctor can be given enough time, maybe one day in the future, it is not impossible to create an artificial human comparable to the god of destruction. If I'm not mistaken, a perverted species like Shalu was also created by this genius doctor. It's really unimaginable that a powerful being who can create a bunch of instant kills called Frieza the Emperor of the universe with just scientific and technological means. Even in the late stage, the surviving Android 17 also participated in the power conference jointly organized by the multi-universe destruction gods, and those who were eligible to participate were the strongest in each universe. If Dr. Genius were still alive, it would be hard to imagine how far he would have been able to develop the android technology. Maybe it's the same as the Saiyan, and finally make a super android, a super blue android, and the god of the android, and then learn through AI, and deduce the performance of the free and extreme intention to load it on the android, and Jillian will give you seconds. The more Li Shu thought about it, the more excited he became. He really wanted to see this plot. This genius doctor, he is bound to win. The plot of Dragon Ball has been revised, I said it. Just when Li Shu was emotionally uncalm, a ding sound suddenly sounded. Ding. Congratulations, trigger the hidden achievement quest, Dr. Gro's future, and save Dr. Gro at a critical moment to turn him right. Quest reward. Android Handbook. Please note that if you fail a hidden mission, the reward will disappear permanently. Li Shu's eyes lit up suddenly. Sure enough, it was exactly what he thought. Emotions are the key to triggering tasks. Not only other people, but also myself can be triggered. This is undoubtedly good news. Li Shu hurriedly took out a small notebook and wrote it down. Li Shu, who had finished making the record, did not rush upstairs. His cultivation purpose was different from that of Wukong. He was mainly here to do tasks. I also tested killing a soldier just now, but I didn't get the progress of punish the evil. In other words, meaningless fights do not accomplish this task. Opening the doors of the rooms on the second floor, Li Shu looked forward to finding some criminals. To be able to join the Red Ribbon Legion, known as the most evil organization in the world, the people in it are not good people without exception. More or less have committed some crimes, and it is undoubtedly a good place to brush up on tasks. In Li Shu's eyes, all of them are task indicators, and naturally they can't let go of any of them, and they all have to break their legs and be captured alive. It's not certain whether the bug will be successful, but if it does, it would be a loss if you didn't prepare in advance. It won't take too long to verify the results, just wait for the police to come. Li Shu was very patient, and did not let go of any room, as well as the place where people could hide, not even the mouse hole, and directly blasted it open to see if there was a secret room inside. But to his regret, no one was found, and he didn't know if he had already fled. It doesn't matter, if you want to escape, you have to run up, you are blocked downstairs, and you can't escape any of them. Even if he flies a plane, it is useless. With his current flight speed and the ability of dinosaur legs to resist the sky, he has an absolute dominance in the air chase battle. Escaping in a flying apparatus will only become a living target for him. When he came to the third floor, the scene in front of him surprised Li Shu. Forest. There is even a man-made lake. Li Shu opened his eyes, and the third floor was turned into the ecological environment of the primeval forest. There is also a wooden house next to the man-made lake, but Goku and the enemy are not seen. Li Shu only sensed it slightly, and sensed Wukong's chi somewhere on the third floor, as well as an unfamiliar chi. Judging from the strength of the chi, the unfamiliar chi is not too strong, and when converted into combat effectiveness, it is about 50. The direction of action of these two chi is exactly where he is now, so Li Shu didn't bother to go to Wukong, just waiting here. Looking at the wooden house, Li Shu couldn't help it a little. How could he do it if he didn't go to search for it? As soon as he entered the house, Li Shu saw that the wooden bed was full of cool magazines. Li Shu quietly picked up a copy and flipped through it. The turtle Immortal must like to read it. I just helped him keep it, but I have to check it first. After all, the requirements of the turtle Immortal are still quite high. This is not too small. The turtle Immortal likes the big one. At this moment, Wukong and that strange breath had already appeared outside the door. What are you doing? Put it down. Put it down. That's what I've treasured for years, and I can't buy it outside. At the same time, an angry voice suddenly sounded behind him. Big brother, do you like to watch these as much as Grandpa Turtle Immortal? Goku's voice also came. Cheeky LV1. Passively triggered. Li Shu stopped the movements in his hand, turned around without a red face and a heartbeat, and said seriously, Wukong, you also know that the Turtle Immortal likes to watch, but what you don't know is that he is very demanding. Big brother, I am testing the quality, not watching, and I will take it back to honor his old man when the time comes. Big brother, I'm reading Spring and Autumn. Spring and Autumn. Goku apparently didn't understand what it meant. You have seen my treasure. I wanted to play with you, but now I'm going to get serious. Anyone who has seen my treasure will die. The purple ninja was furious. His left hand grabbed the hilt of the long sword behind his back, and his right hand made a seal in front of him, with a solemn look on his face. Let me show you what is the strength of the upper ninja. Li Shu's eyelids lifted. Combat strength, 53. It's not that Li Shu hasn't seen the Hokage, but the upper ninja in front of him and the upper ninja in the Hokage are completely two different concepts. The upper ninja with a combat power of 53 is really a bit ridiculous. However, playing ninjutsu in the Dragon Ball world, the upper limit is already limited. It can only be said that the ninja in front of him, who is dressed in purple and still wearing black mesh underwear, has chosen the wrong profession and is useless. I saw the purple ninja's eyes glare, and with a song, he left an afterimage in place, and his true body had disappeared. Hey, he's gone. Goku stared around with wide eyes. He hadn't seen the purple ninja's movements just now. Li Shu also didn't see it clearly, which surprised him a little, but the combat power of 53 above his head, and the chi that was not hidden, exposed the whereabouts of the purple ninja. That's it. Li Shu looked at the place where the purple ninja had been standing with strange eyes, and there was a piece of cloth on the ground with a texture and color similar to the ground. To tell the truth, this cloth is well made. If it weren't for the fact that there was a person hiding underneath, which made the ground bulge, it really wouldn't be visible at a glance. A ninja who can't completely hide his own chi, and his IQ is still a little problematic. This is the first impression evaluation given by Li Shu. Here, even Goku, who didn't seem very smart, soon discovered the hiding place of the purple ninja and walked on it and danced happily. The purple ninja screamed in pain, got up from the ground in an instant, and looked at the two of them in shock. You were able to break my invisibility. Li Shu looked at the ninja speechlessly, and he didn't know if this guy was really stupid or pretending. Such inferior methods are probably found by everyone. But either way, he wasn't going to waste time. Not this time. The purple ninja's next words surprised Li Shu. I wasn't ready just now. Now you close your eyes and count for 30 seconds, if you can still find me, even if you are amazing. Li Shu was speechless and planned to do it directly, but Wukong laughed and said, okay, but I can only count to 16, you have to tell me how to count after 16. Quote. Alas. Li Shu held his forehead with one hand and said speechlessly, Wukong, you play slowly with the ninja. Big brother, I will go up first, remember to capture it alive, big brother is an urgent need. Quote. Okay big brother. Wukong nodded seriously, wrenching his fingers to think about what is behind 16. Don't go. You haven't seen my true ninjutsu yet. The purple ninja dodged and stopped in front of Li Shu. Get out. Intellectual retardation. Li Shu couldn't bear it anymore, so he slapped it away and walked towards the 4th floor. At the moment when he stepped on the stairs, he suddenly felt 4 unfamiliar chi around him, which made Li Shu startled, and he hurriedly jumped back. At the same time, a series of cold lights suddenly lit up, accompanied by a large number of sounds of breaking the air, all of which were boomerangs, shurikens, plum blossom darts and other hidden weapons, shooting towards his previous location. After dodging the sneak attack, Li Shu looked at it and was immediately shocked. I saw 4 identical purple ninjas appear in front of me. Doppelganger. Li Shu looked back at the purple ninja just now, who was making strange movements with his hands sealed. Truly, you can see how powerful my ninjutsu is, this is a doppelganger. The purple ninja laughed, smiling proudly. Doppelganger. Li Shu was a little puzzled. He looked at the combat power on the head of another ninja. Combat strength. 45 combat strength. 51 combat strength. 39 combat strength. 49. Closing square bracket. And the different 5 chi are not the same person's chi at all. Are you really a doppelganger? Li Shu asked suspiciously. As he spoke, without waiting for the purple ninja's answer, Li Shu made an instant move, and the speed was extremely fast, leaving an afterimage of the ground. The 4 purple ninjas screamed at the same time, accompanied by the sound of broken leg bones. Omega D Omega. The purple ninja who was posing in the shape of a doppelganger technique was stunned by the scene in front of him, and a flash of fear flashed in his eyes. You call this a doppelganger? Li Shu asked with a strange expression. You can't be quintuplets, right? Quote. You found out. The purple ninja said in fear, then turned around and ran without the slightest hesitation. Li Shu had just solved the 4 younger brothers of his compatriots in an instant, and his great strength had completely destroyed his confidence. Wukong, these people are too weak to have the effect of cultivation, so let's solve it as soon as possible. In the purple ninja, Li Shu had completely lost his patience, and added, when the time comes, the eldest brother will accompany you to fight. Really, eldest brother? Goku was so excited that he jumped up from the ground with joy, took out the golden hoop stick behind his back, and instantly chased after the fleeing purple ninja and knocked him to the ground with a stick. Li Shu tied up the quintuplets in a knot to prevent them from escaping, and then walked towards the 4th floor. General White in the monitoring room, such a result already frightened him. We can't go on like this. General White took out his walkie-talkie and yelled, bring Cyborg 8 here. Quote. On the 4th floor of Masruda, Li Shu looked at the empty surroundings and fell into deep thought. Why is there no one? Where are all these people hiding? Li Shu felt very puzzled. From the outside, this Masruda is the 5th floor at its highest. Could it be that they are all concentrated on the 5th floor to protect General White? It seems that this is the only possibility. Just as Li Shu was looking for the stairs leading to the 5th floor, he found himself lost. The structure of the entire 4th floor is like a labyrinth. It's really nerve-wracking. I'm a road idiot. Li Shu directly summoned the holographic Dragon Ball radar and turned on the navigation. With the help of navigation, it was not long before the stairs leading to the 5th floor were found. The moment he stepped onto the 5th floor, Li Shu was overjoyed because he was surrounded by a group of soldiers armed with guns. The innermost door opened at this moment, and General White walked to the door, not approaching Li Shu and Wukong. In front of him, there was also a tall and strong man, who looked very strong. I didn't expect you to find it so quickly. Since you are in a hurry to find death, I will fulfill you. Do it, kill them for me. General White gave the order, and the soldier immediately pulled the trigger, and a dense burst of bullets was fired. However, all this is in vain for Li Shu and Wukong. The 2 of them divided 5 by 2, knocking all these soldiers to the ground in an instant, and Li Shu even broke their legs. Android 8, what are you still standing? If you don't hurry up, kill these 2 for me. General White's eyes swelled with fear, and he yelled angrily at the strong man in front of him. Android 8, Li Shu suddenly became alert, although he didn't remember the plot of Android 8 at all, but the strength of this kind of numbered android should not be underestimated. Just when Li Shu was waiting for him, the words of Android 8 made everyone stunned. I don't. In 2 short words, it is said to the point. Even Li Shu wondered if he had heard it wrong. Weren't you in the same group? Only to hear Android 8 continue, I won't help you do evil. You dare to disobey my orders. Have you forgotten who made you? We are your parents. Annoyed, General White pulled out a red-buttoned remote control from his bosom. Have you forgotten that you still have a bomb in your body? If you dare to disobey my orders, I will blow you up right now. Cyborg 8's face suddenly showed a look of embarrassment. Not only that, but I'm going to kill all the people in your village. Your village chief is still being held by me, and you don't want anything to happen to him, do you? It just so happened that Dr. Gro's experiment was still a few test subjects. General White gritted his teeth and threatened. Android 8 finally relented, and he stepped out to stand in front of him. Li Shu frowned and looked at Android 8. I don't know why, the Eye of Fighting did not show the opponent's combat power value. He couldn't detect the presence of Qi in the other party. Therefore, it is not possible to make an accurate judgment. It seems that the Eye of Fighting needs to be upgraded a little more. Li Shu thought secretly in his heart. As for General White on the side, Li Shu didn't pay attention to the pitiful 20 points of combat power at all. At this moment, Wukong on the side suddenly moved. His speed was extremely fast, he directly bypassed the android and kicked the remote control in General White's hand. Under General White's terrified gaze, Goku stepped on the remote control with a few kicks. Fool! General White panicked and hurriedly retreated to the command room and locked the door. Wukong smiled at Android 8 and said, "Uncle, I'll help you destroy the remote control, so you don't have to help them do bad things." Quote, "Thank you." Android 8 also had a happy smile on his face, and continued, "I'm going to rescue the village chief. I'm afraid I can't help you deal with General White now." Quote, "By the way, what's your name?" "Monkey King." "Son Wukong, thank you again." After Thanksgiving, Cyborg 8 leaves to save the imprisoned village chief. Without the obstruction of Android 8, Li Shu kicked open the door of the command room, thinking that there was some secret room inside, and General White had already escaped. Unexpectedly, General White sat in it decently, and the previous panic had disappeared. "I have to admit that I underestimated you. I've already hidden the second planet. If you kill me, don't even think about finding it in this life." General White smoked a cigar and looked fearless. Li Shu glanced at the holographic Dragon Ball radar, then pointed to the wall next to him and said, "There is a treasure room here, and the 2 planets are in it." General White's face changed suddenly, and he looked at Li Shu in shock. "How do you know?" Then he became depressed and sat there weakly. "I'm sorry, but we have a more accurate Dragon Ball radar." Li Shu and Goku took a step forward. The corners of General White's mouth suddenly rose, and a triumphant smirk appeared on his face, and he quickly pressed a button on the console. I saw that the floor under Li Shu and Wukong's feet suddenly cracked, and the 2 fell down instantly. "Ha ha, you're dead. Any idea what's down there?" "That's a big fat dragon from the demon realm. Even if you can fight again, it's useless." "Ha ha. Operator, oh Operator." General White's laughter stopped abruptly, and the smile on his face immediately froze, dumbfounded. Omega D Omega. I saw that Li Shu and Wukong actually flew up, suspended in midair, and looked at him with a sneer. "Fly, fly, no way, it's absolutely impossible. Why do you fly? Big brother, what is the big fat dragon?" I heard that he looked very powerful, and I wanted to ask for advice. Both of them ignored the shocked General White, and Goku said with high spirits, "Okay, I'll leave it to Big Brother here." Li Shu knew Wukong's character, and there was no reason to refuse. To be honest, he was also quite curious about what the big fat dragon was. "By the way, remember to catch it alive, maybe it's delicious." After Li Shu admonished him, Wukong flew down excitedly. After Wukong left, General White's screams soon rang out in the command room. At first, General White's mouth was quite hard, and he would rather die than give in, but after eating a few fairy beans, after experiencing that he couldn't survive and couldn't die, he finally compromised and confessed his crime. "And the whereabouts of Dr. Grow? Do you have a picture?" Li Shu asked. General White shook his head. "I haven't seen Dr. Grow either." Li Shu said regretfully, "Now you have 2 choices, the first one. Forget it, I'd better just break your legs." In the command room, the miserable screams of General White rang out again. Then, Li Shu opened the door of the treasure room with a punch, and looted the 2 planets and the money inside. "By the way, how many of you are in Masruda?" Li Shu asked again. "Is there a roster?" 73 people. The roster is in the drawer." General White was completely frightened and did not dare to conceal it in the slightest. Li Shu glanced at the list, counted the soldiers tied to the ground, and found that there were still 3 left. "There are 3 people left, and they called over." General White pointed to his leg and looked at Li Shu in fear. Can you lift me to the console?" "I'm sorry, I'm a little heavy, but I'm also doing this for your good. If you don't break your legs, you'll try your best to escape. If you run away, I will kill you, so I broke your leg to save your life. You have to understand me." "Are you talking about human words?" General White looked at Li Shu with even more horror. "Also, I know you're having a hard time right now, but you have to learn to overcome it on your own. Don't you always add trouble to others? Don't you still have hands? You can crawl over here." With the unremitting efforts of General White, dragging the crippled body, he finally climbed to the console and called the remaining 3 people over the walkie-talkie. "Big brother, save me." At this time, Wukong's voice calling for help suddenly came from below. Li Shu's face changed. "It shouldn't be. In his perception, the strength of the big fat dragon locked up underground is a big difference compared to Wukong. At most 60 combat power, how could Goku not be able to beat it? Before he had time to think about it, Li Shu grabbed General White on the side, and under his frightened expression, they flew underground together. "You're crazy. Here's a big fat dragon down there. Quote. Get up there. Hurry up and get up. I don't want to die yet. We're all going to die. I admit that you are strong, but you don't know anything about the power of the big fat dragon. Please, don't fly any further." Quote. General White was crippled and struggling frantically in Li Shu's hands, and the fear of death made him forget the pain of his wound for a moment. Ignoring General White's pleas and advice, Li Shu sped up and was already able to see what was happening below. I saw a creature covered in pink, with an extremely fat body and an extremely ugly appearance, with 2 soft tentacles on the top of its head, which were emitting electricity. Under the attack of the electricity, Goku was unable to move by the electricity, his face was full of pain, and his tongue was spit out. Combat power. 65. Looking at the combat power on the top of the big fat dragon, Li Shu was a little hard to believe that Wukong actually lost to this ugly thing. But after thinking about Wukong's fighting style at this time, he was quickly relieved. Maybe at the beginning, I had a playful heart, and I didn't take it seriously, and I wanted to try the limit of the big fat dragon, but I was caught off guard. Judging from the size of the big fat dragon, this monster is fat and should be very resistant to beating. Li Shu flew in the sky, and when he raised his hand, a ray of energy shot towards the tentacles of the big fat dragon. The imaginary picture of the tentacle breaking did not happen, but only the tentacle was crooked a little. Although he didn't do much damage, he interrupted the attack of the electric current, and Goku recovered from his paralyzed state with a look of fear on his face. He never thought that this monster would actually discharge. Big brother, my attack hit this monster, he didn't do anything at all, not even the turtle sect Qigong had no effect. Wukong frowned and said with a look of confusion. The person has been saved, let's go up quickly, you can't fight the big fat dragon, this is our Masruda's last secret weapon. General White hurriedly urged. Li Shu ignored him, it was impossible for him to leave. Because just now, the sound of the system sounded. Ding! Congratulations, triggering the limited time achievement mission, White's Shock. Mission requirements. Kill the big fat dragon in seconds within 30 seconds. Reward. Epiphany Potion Boosting Scroll. Epiphany Potion Boosting Scroll, as the name suggests, 100% success. With this reward, how could Li Shu let it go? Keep your eyes open and look at it, it's you, who don't know anything about my power. After saying this, Li Shu's gaze began to become fierce, and a terrifying aura was rapidly climbing in his body. If General White could see the combat power above Li Shu's head, he would find that the value was skyrocketing wildly. A few hundred points a second. The powerful qi almost condensed into substance, turning into a white aura that enveloped Li Shu. His combat power at the moment has soared to 1370 points. But the speed of the increase in combat power has not stopped or slowed down, but is still rising wildly. Combat strength, 3000. Ode. Wukong and General White's eyes widened at this moment, only to see that the white aura around Li Shu's body had turned golden at this moment. Not only that, but even the hair has turned blonde. Combat power, 4950. At this moment, Li Shu was surrounded by golden aura, his golden hair stood up, and his angular face looked like a sense of oppression that was not angry and arrogant. It's the Super Saiyan form. The original 50-fold increase in combat power has been increased to 52 times after the Saiyan bloodline has been increased to LV1. Combat power 5148. vs combat power 65. Just the wisp of coercion released by the Super Saiyan form suppressed the big fat dragon and couldn't move, and his eyes were full of horror. Li Shu turned sideways and stretched out his right hand to aim at the big fat dragon, and the terrifying energy fluctuations quickly condensed in his palm, emitting a blue light. Boom! With the blessing of the charged buff, a moment later, a violent turtle sect Qigong surged out, completely submerging the big fat dragon, and the wall behind it instantly blasted out a big hole. When the terrifying turtle chi function dissipated, the figure of the big fat dragon was no longer visible, and it had already disappeared. The howling cold wind, accompanied by goose feather-like snowflakes blowing from the broken hole, made the frightened General White shudder back to his senses, and then suddenly looked at the man covered in golden light on the side. His eyes were full of indelible shock. Wukong on the side was already shocked, and this powerful force made him feel fear from the depths of his soul. Ding! Limited time achievement mission. White's shock, completed. Quote. Get the reward. Epiphany potion boosting scroll. Plus 10 achievement. The corners of Li Shu's mouth rose and he withdrew from the Super Saiyan mentality. Under normal circumstances, he was not sure that he would kill the big fat dragon with one blow. After all, Wukong's combat power is the same as his, and even Wukong can't break through the defense of the big fat dragon, and I'm afraid it will be difficult for him to do it. There were only 30 seconds to spare, and in order to ensure the completion of the task, Li Shu decisively used all his strength, not wanting any accidents to happen. At the same time, he also wants to experience what it's like to transform into a Super Saiyan. Not to mention, it's pretty cool. It's just a bit physically draining, and he can't last too long with his current 99 combat power physique. In just a few seconds, he felt like his strength was almost exhausted. Fortunately, there are a lot of fairy beans, and after the transformation, he ate one, and his state returned to his peak. With the end of Li Shu's transformation, General White and Wukong came back to their senses. It's so strong. Wukong looked at Li Shu excitedly, his eyes full of war. General White was already stunned. How could his jaw not close, and he looked at Li Shu in shock. Coincidentally, as soon as Li Shu finished dealing with all the enemies in Masrita, a rapid siren sounded in the distance. 5 police cars sped along the snowy road. But when they got close to Masrita 500 meters, they stopped, and 2 men got out of the car and watched with binoculars. Li Shu dragged General White out of Masrita, waved at the policemen 500 meters away, and shouted. Here, come on. They've all been subdued by me. The police officer holding 2 binoculars in the distance suddenly showed a look of shock on his face. Naturally, they saw General White dragging in Li Shu's hand. There are many people in the Red Ribbon Legion, they all have records in the police department, and they are no strangers to General White. I saw the 2 police officers put down their binoculars, said a few words to the people in the car, and then got back into the police car and drove towards Masrita. Li Shu was too far away to hear what he was saying, but as long as he came over. Whether the bug can be successfully stopped depends on this last critical moment. Chapter 51. Ha, it's you. The police car pulled up in front of Masrita, and 10 heavily armed officers stepped out of the car. One of the female police officers was surprised when she saw Li Shu and Wukong. The moment he saw the female police officer, Li Shu was also a little surprised. He didn't expect to meet an acquaintance. Officially, my name is Jing Yuya, and am you the police again? Fortunately, my name is Li Shu, this is my younger brother's son Wukong. That's right, I called the police again. Li Shu smiled brightly. Jing Yuya glanced at General White on the side and asked in disbelief, did you really destroy Masrita? Yes, I'm afraid it's not enough for you to send only 5 police cars, and the rest of the criminals have already been tied up. Just inside the tower, counting General White, a total of 77 people. But I'm sorry, I accidentally killed one in the process of legitimate defense, and now there are 76 people left. You shouldn't be pursuing it, are you? Li Shu asked. 77 people. Wouldn't that be 2 vs 77? The police officer gasped, looking at the big and small ones who were fine. They were really a little incredulous. They once sent hundreds of police officers, but they fled with heavy losses. I have something to do, can you get them away quickly? Rest assured, they have all confessed their sins. I can ask them to confess their sins again in front of you, so please make sure you take a record. Li Shu said seriously. After a brief silence, Jing Yuya stayed behind to inquire about what had happened, and the remaining 9 officers cautiously walked into Masrita. You said you were passing through here, and they attacked you, so you had to defend yourself, and then you caught them all. That's it, what's the problem? Li Shu looked at Jing Yuya with a smile, took out a dinosaur leg, and took a bite. Do you want some? Jing Yuya's eyes widened. She didn't see that the dinosaur meat that was charred on the outside and tender on the inside, exuding an enticing fragrance, was taken from it. The key is still steaming, as if it had just been baked. Big brother, give me a bite. Goku opened his mouth and was about to bite it. As a result, it still bites into the air, which makes Satoru scream. It didn't take long for the wounded in Masrita to be lifted out one after another. The police officers were completely shocked by the scene in front of them, 76 bandits, and seeing 76 bandits with their own eyes, completely two different feelings. In particular, these 76 people all had comminuted fractures of both legs. They took out their computers and went through the process of verifying the identities of the 76 people one by one, and found that all of them were wanted criminals on record. This saved Li Shu a lot of time, and he didn't have to make these people confess again. Li Shu was worried at first that the 5 police cars would not be able to bring back so many criminals, but it was not until the police took out the universal capsule and summoned 5 more police cars that he realized that his worries were unnecessary. This was a great inspiration to Li Shu. His dimensional storage space is only 4 square meters so far, and it can't fit large items at all. However, if you receive a large item in the universal capsule, the space of 4 square meters is not too big. Why did I forget the all-purpose capsule? Li Shu was a little annoyed, and put the matter of buying universal capsules on the agenda. Build a smart house first, and then build a few intelligent robots, so that it is much more convenient to eat and wear in the wild. I still haven't changed my mindset. He and Wukong stayed in Baozi Mountain for 5 years, living the life of a savage, which made his thinking a little rigid, ignoring the convenience brought by technology. As the police force left, the sound of the system sounded. Ding. Achievement ring. Punish evil. Current progress 8300s. Quote. It's done. Li Shu's face was happy, and he was in a very happy mood. No more, no less, just 76 points more. In this way, as long as the entire Red Ribbon Legion is destroyed, this task of punishing traitors and eliminating evil should be completed. There are 4 days left before the time to check into the Red Ribbon Legion. The location of the headquarters of the Red Ribbon Regiment has been learned from General White. Just as Li Shu was about to destroy Masrita and complete the final mission, he suddenly remembered something. Where's Android 8? Wukong, did you see that? Quote. Goku had apparently forgotten about this person as well, scratching the back of his head with a dazed look. Not being able to perceive the chi of an artificial person is indeed a troublesome thing. The levels of Eye of Battle and Chi Sense are still too low. Suddenly, the ground shook violently, and in Li Shu's line of sight, Masrita was leaning. The figure of Android 8 appeared in sight at the same time. This guy came out of nowhere, and at the moment he was pushing the foundation of Masrita, trying to destroy the building. Li Shu was immediately anxious. This was his own task, and he directly transformed into a Super Saiyan again, and before the android number 8, a turtle faction Qigong blasted Masrita into scum. Ding. Achievement mission. Destroy Masrita, completed. Quote. Reward. Omnibreath. +5 achievement. Almighty breathing. In any environment, you will not suffocate. Li Shu returned to normal, and after eating a fairy bean, he breathed a sigh of relief, and now transforming into a Super Saiyan is still too heavy for his body. Android 8 stood in front of the ruins of Masrita with a confused expression, his gaze shifting to Li Shu. No thanks, it's just that you're pushing too hard, so I'll help you. Thank you, thank you. Android 8 thanked him and walked over with the village chief. At the kind invitation of the village chief and Android 8, Li Shu declined the invitation to sit in their village. Looking at the closest position to them on the holographic Dragon Ball radar, Li Shu and Wukong set off again. The picture shows a 3-planet planet, and the surrounding environment looks like it is in a cave, and it is held in the hands of a statue in the shape of a pirate. Around the statue, there are countless gold and silver jewels. After sacking Masrita's wealth, Li Shu was no longer interested in money. Strange, how can the location of this cave be displayed in the sea? 30 kilometers away from Masrita. General Blue sat in a helicopter and received the latest instructions from the headquarters. Communication is down from Masrita's side. The Dragon Ball radar shows that there are 3 Dragon Balls gathered together and moving towards the sea. When General Blue heard the latest news, his expression was a little moved. Masrita's strength, he knows it, even the number 1 master in the army is very jealous. Listening to the commander-in-chief, Masrita should be destroyed. Leave a helicopter behind to confirm the situation in Lower Masrita, and the rest of the people turn around and head towards the sea. General Blue was not long in giving the latest order. Li Shu stood on the surface of the sea and fell into deep thought. He can stay underwater for as long as he wants, but what about Goku? Submarine. I can afford to buy it, but I can't open it. It seems that she has to go on a trip to the Genius Girl Boomer, and it shouldn't be difficult for her to drive a submarine, right? Or separate from Goku. Let him go and practice alone. Or maybe you're waiting for yourself on the sea. Li Shu thought about it and planned to let Goku decide for himself. To be honest, after eliminating the 2 units of the Red Ribbon Legion in a row, Li Shu felt that the strength of the Red Ribbon Legion could not bring too much pressure to Wukong. At present, the best way to practice is to climb the Kalen Tower, and then the 2 of them practice, fight to the death, and then eat fairy beans, crazy card bug, and the combat power is clicking. But this premise is to obtain the desire to be, not afraid of pain. Otherwise, under the debuff of 100 times the pain, what kind of torture will you suffer? It's chilling to think about. Li Shu informed Wukong of his thoughts. So, Goku, what are you going to do? Wukong thought seriously for a while and said, Big brother, then I'll wait for you at Kalanta. Okay, don't worry, Wukong, in 4 days at most, the eldest brother will be able to collect 7 Dragon Balls, and then go to you, let's have a good fight. In this way, after Li Shu informed Kalanta of his whereabouts, he separated from Goku and plunged headlong into the sea. After 10 minutes, Li Shu, who acted alone, was much faster, and under the guidance of navigation, he quickly and successfully got the 3 planets in the cave under the sea. Just as he flew out of the sea and headed for the next Dragon Ball, he was suddenly stopped by more than a dozen fighter jets. Is that him? Report to General Blue, it's him. Didn't you say 1 big and 1 small? Maybe the other little one died in Masruda. Makes sense, then. Fire, let me see his depths. General Blue took out a rose and sniffed it in front of his nose with a nonchalant look. In one-on-one situations, he is not afraid of anyone. He is completely confident in his own strength, and for no other reason, in addition to his great physique and strength, he also has a superpower. This superpower has helped him solve all the powerful opponents, and he has been invincible repeatedly. Is it the Red Ribbon Legion again? As soon as they met, the other party couldn't help but open fire, and he had such a powerful firepower that he couldn't think of anyone else except for the Red Ribbon Legion for the time being. Okay, I'll find myself. Li Shu did not knock them down immediately, but flew towards an isolated island in the distance, intending to capture them all alive. Seeing that Li Shu was beaten by their powerful firepower and fled, General Blue immediately sneered. What, that's it? Quote, forget about Saruba's waste. I didn't expect the Masruda controlled by White to be destroyed in the hands of this kid. Just now, he had confirmed the news that Masruda had been destroyed. He must have used some kind of despicable means. Chase it over, remember to catch it alive, this kid looks thin and tender, I like it very much. General Blue actually gave a flying kiss in the direction of Li Shu's escape. The soldier sitting next to him couldn't help but shudder, thinking of some bad past. On the isolated island, Li Shu rushed headlong into the jungle, pretending to dodge, and waiting for all the flying machines to land. When he was sure that everyone had landed, he stopped and calmly watched the pursuers. Run, why don't you run? General Blue said regretfully. I like the posture in the back the most, the way you run away is really exciting. Quote. Vonma. Li Shu couldn't stand it, he didn't expect to encounter such a fool. Even if he didn't want this 1 point of progress, he was bound to raise the ashes of this fool. Just when General Blue was about to flirt a few words, Li Shu moved. A golden aura ignited around him, his golden hair stood on end, and his cold gaze swept around like a sharp blade. A shot is a big move. Yu Shanbin is so capricious. That fool, he didn't want to see it for a moment. Ode. Just when everyone was still shocked how Li Shu managed to dye his hair instantly. What is the golden aura around the body? Li Shu had disappeared from their field of vision. Meanwhile, General Blue's screams suddenly rang out. The soldiers were shocked and looked over. I saw that a large hole appeared in General Blue's crotch, abdomen, and chest, and his face was full of horror, which soon turned into a strong unwillingness. My superpowers haven't been used yet, my superpowers haven't been used yet. I'm unwilling, I'm unwilling. Then he fell to the ground, and he could not die again. Surrender or kill. A faint voice came from the air, and all the soldiers looked up. looking at the man flying in the sky, dazed and fearful spread in their hearts. There are also a small number of soldiers who are full of blood, and they shoot when they raise their guns. It wasn't until they realized that the bullets had no effect that they laid down their weapons in despair. 1 hour later, Li Shu learned of their crime and skillfully called the police. The Red Ribbon Legion again. Wait, your voice sounds familiar. That's right, it's me again. I can't help it, they have to take revenge on me, I have to defend myself. There are 36 people this time, so you should bring more people. After waiting for another 30 minutes or so, the officers finally came. Officer Jingyuya, we're meeting again. Looking at the oncoming female police officer, Li Shu smiled and said hello. I don't know if you know a person named Uegokami. I don't know. Jingyuya shook her head, is she your friend? Quote, no, I don't know either, it's an actor my friend likes, and it's about the same name as yours, so ask. And, coincidentally, you look alike, but you're even better, a little taller than her. Don't you know? How do you know we look alike? Quote, it's my friend who knows, he described it to me, I really don't know who Uegogami is, I usually read Spring and Autumn. The two were also acquaintances, and after chatting for a while, the other police officers also checked the identities of these soldiers and put them all on the helicopter. At the same time, the sound of the system came as promised. Ding! Achievement Quest Ring. Punish Evil. Current progress 116 300s. Li Shu couldn't help but show a smile on his face, and when he turned on the holographic Dragon Ball radar again, he was stunned for a moment but soon became happy. Yes, the Red Ribbon Legion actually helped me collect two, so only the last Dragon Ball remains. Quote, what's going on? Where is the last Dragon Ball? Li Shu was a little confused, and the location of the last Dragon Ball was not shown on the holographic Dragon Ball radar. Something is wrong, the location of the 7 Dragon Balls was clearly shown at the beginning. After thinking about it, Li Shu only thought of one possibility. That is, in addition to him and the Red Ribbon Legion, there are also third forces looking for the whereabouts of the Dragon Balls. It is very likely that this third-party force has mastered the device to block the Dragon Ball signal. Therefore, the signal of the last Dragon Ball disappeared on the holographic Dragon Ball radar. Do you want to improve the holographic Dragon Ball radar? Li Shu quickly repudiated this decision, and even if it was improved, it would not necessarily be able to detect the blocked signal. This is a problem. Li Shu sat cross-legged on the dinosaur's lap, touching his chin and falling into deep thought. Try to recall the memories of Dragon Ball more than 20 years ago in your mind, and whether you can find the whereabouts of Dragon Ball without the need for Dragon Ball radar. At the headquarters of the Red Ribbon Corps, the commander-in-chief is furious. Those 3 pieces of waste all failed. Looks like we have to ask that person to help. Contact the number 1 killer Dao Bye immediately. Yes. After 10 minutes, the commander-in-chief looked at the man in front of him with a murderous face, wearing a pink robe and a big word, kill, embroidered on his chest. I didn't expect you to come so quickly. There is no change in the expression on Dao Bai's face, and he always looks like a murderer, as if he is telling others all the time that I am a ruthless killer. I have to say that he has handled his character very well. The strongest killer in the world is not cheap. Say let me kill whom, the reward for killing a person is 100 million. Dao Bai went straight to the point and said the amazing price. But you're lucky, today is the anniversary of my 20th year in the industry, and in order to commemorate this day, I plan to do a killing big reward event, which can give you a discount. Kill one person, 50 million is enough. Are you really peachy? Adjutant Brock muttered quietly. You can try. Brack hurriedly waved his hand, and the commander-in-chief said with a smile, no problem, you can as much as you want, as long as you kill that person for me. Quote. There it is. Li Shu, who was thinking about it for a long time, finally thought of a key plot character in Dragon Ball, the divination mother-in-law. This is a character with divination abilities, and the mount is a crystal ball through which she is able to divinate what she wants to know. If I'm not mistaken, she seems to be the sister of the turtle Immortal. The dusty memory fragments gradually recovered, which reminded Li Shu of a lot of plots. Unfortunately, he didn't know the exact location of the soothsayer. Taking out the map and looking at it, Li Shu found that the location he was at the moment was not too far from the island of the Turtle Immortals. At the same time, a ding sound sounded in my head. Ding. Trigger the side check-in quest, Granny Fortune. Quote. Check-in reward. Super Earthling Bloodline. Quote question mark quote. Quote exclamation mark exclamation mark exclamation mark quote. The moment he heard the reward, Li Shu was stunned for a second and then quickly became shocked. Super Earthling Blood. Li Shu immediately became excited. When he watched Dragon Ball before, he was wondering why the Earthlings were inferior to the Saiyans and even the Namekarians. After all, after Goku got married, he gave birth to Son Gohan and Son Goten, as well as Vegeta and Boomer's son Trunks. They are all hybrids that combine Earthling and Saiyan blood. The most important thing is that each one has amazing potential. Especially Son Gohan. If he hadn't been delayed by learning, I'm afraid the protagonist of the follow-up Dragon Ball world would have to be replaced. When he saw this plot at that time, he was thinking that since Saiyan and Earthlings were mixed, they could burst out with such amazing potential. And the android is also outrageously strong, and it also contains the blood genes of the Earthlings in its body. So why is the bloodline of Earthlings so weak? Now that I think about it, it's definitely Uncle Bird who is lazy and too lazy to think about the setting. Super Earthling Bloodline. The system also does not give a description, and the upper limit is extremely high. Li Shu looked forward to it, and immediately flew towards the island of the Turtle Immortals. He even wondered if himself, who had both Saiyan blood and Super Earthling blood, would undergo amazing changes. And as long as the achievement value is enough, the bloodline level can be continuously improved in the future, and the Super Earthling's bloodline has come out, and there may be props for bloodline fusion. If you get the bloodline of the Namek, the frozen demon bloodline of Frieza, you can get all of them, it will be invincible. Super Nami Frozen Saiyan Earthling. Super Hybrids. Super Mongrel. Thinking of this, Li Shuyi couldn't help laughing. This is too funny. No, 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 this must not be tried, unless there is a bloodline forgetting prop, otherwise it will be over when the time comes. There are two tails behind the buttocks, a monkey tail, a mouse tail, and then a green skin. I couldn't help but shudder. If this is seen by other traversers, I am afraid that they will be laughed to death, although the probability is extremely low, but it is not ruled out. After all, with a 99% success rate, he can fail 3 times, and he can't imagine where the bottom line of the system is. What if he is not the only one who crosses over? 5 minutes later, Li Shu came to the Turtle Immortals hut again. Anyone? Teacher Wu Tian. Quote. Clin. Turtles. Lanky. Ha, aren't you all at home? After looking around and not seeing anyone, Li Shu lay on the recliner outside the house, basking in the sun leisurely. While sorting out the harvest of this time, he waited for the Turtle Immortal to return. Li Shu's achievement value at the moment is as high as 89 points. Heart of War and Spirit of War have yet to figure out what they do. I'm afraid it will take a fierce battle to bring out the power of these two skills. There are still 3 days left, and the task of punishing adultery and eliminating evil can be completed, and the 5,000 achievement points reward must be planned carefully. The skill of Kun Fist is too embarrassing, and it also has a fatal weakness, and once it is used, it cannot be stopped. Li Shu took out the forgetfulness water and decisively forgot this skill, and at the same time tasted what it was like to forget the water. He was worried that in the future battle, if a mistake triggered this skill, it would be the end of the calf. Ding! Congratulations! Earn the achievement, First Oblivion Skill. Quote. Reward. Kun Palm. +5 achievement. Li Shu. Li Shu was speechless. This forgot about Kun Fist, and there was another Kun Palm. He was on a par with Kun Skill. Kun Palm, a palm technique that contains a strong embarrassment, which is infinitely powerful. Please use it with caution. Please use with caution. I don't need to. Li Shu gave up. Even if he obtained the forgetfulness water in the future, he would not waste it on it. The ghost knows if there are any strange skills such as Kun Leg and Kun Whip. But then again, how did the power that got the last Dragon Ball do it? Even the dimensional storage space can't block the Dragon Ball signal. What else is this called? Dimensional storage. You have a bug in the system. Fix it quickly. Ideographic period. Li Shu complained in his heart. System. Do you consume 50 achievement points to increase dimensional storage? No. Li Shu decisively refused. He knew that this was the case. System props like this were the lowest grade, and they needed additional upgrades to improve. It's not worth spending 50 achievement points on this at this stage. At this time, Li Shu frowned, sensing an aura far above him, and was rapidly approaching. It's a strange breath. Li Shu hurriedly got up and looked into the distance with a serious expression. This was the most powerful breath he had ever felt. As the peach white, he had a guess in an instant, and there was a faint expectation in his heart. I don't know if it was under the influence of the Saiyan bloodline. Li Shu, who didn't like to fight, actually had a strong fighting spirit at this moment. It didn't take long for Li Shu's line of sight to see a black dot appear in the sky in the distance, which was gradually enlarged. The other party's speed is extremely fast, and he can already see the whole picture in the next moment. An old man in a pink coat dressed in a killer logo stood on a flying pillar, his hands behind his back, and he looked at himself with a murderous face. Sure enough, it's the same as in the anime. The flight of the pillar is achieved only by arm strength, ideographic period. Li Shu stood quietly in place, waiting for Dao Bai to land. Dao Bai jumped off the pillar and landed smoothly, and the flying pillar was also exhausted at this moment, and it was fiercely inserted into the ground. Based on this alone, it can be seen that Dao Bai's control of power has reached an astonishing level. Combat strength, 150. Li Shu took a deep breath and felt unprecedented pressure. He can transform into a Super Saiyan or a giant ape, both of which have the power to kill each other in seconds. But then the purpose of the practice is lost. Now that he has Super Painkiller in his hand, he can shield 100 times the pain, so that he no longer has to be afraid when fighting. Although the effect of one painkiller can only last for 5 minutes. He still has 28 left, which is enough for this battle. However, in the hand-to-hand fight with Goku, he seemed to be a little used to the pain of 100 times, and it was not so unbearable. He could clearly feel that his ability to resist strikes had improved. Boy, you are honored to die in the hands of the world's first killer, my Taobai. Dao Bai took out a photo, and after confirming that the target was correct, he threw it on the ground at random. How much does the Red Ribbon Legion bid? Li Shu asked curiously. 50 million. Today is my 20th anniversary, and I can leave you a whole corpse and allow you to choose a way to die. Dao Bai put his hands behind his back and said calmly, as if he had given his opponent a great gift. 50 million. It's a lot of money, but you'll never get it. Really, there is no order that I can't complete in vain. Li Shu suddenly smiled and said, if I give 100 million and let you kill the Crane Immortal, what will you do? Quote. Oh, there was finally a hint of fluctuation on Dao Bai's calm face. I didn't expect you to know quite a lot. Quote. It seems that you have a bad relationship with that old fellow of the Turtle Immortal, and he even told you this. The Crane Immortal is my brother, and I can choose not to take this order from you. Li Shu was about to chat with Dao Bai about something, wanting to see if he could trigger some tasks. I heard Dao Bai you say. After all, he is my sibling, but as an excellent killer, feelings are just our bargaining chips. 1 billion, I will help you kill him. Quote. It turns out that you are also a money-adding layman. How? Need to place an order. Give me 1 billion, I'll kill you first, and then I'll kill my brother. If you add another 100 million, I can help you kill the commander-in-chief. Li Shu was immediately happy. You are really an excellent killer, and the #1 killer in the world is worthy of your reputation. Have you thought about it? I forgot to tell you, today is my 20th anniversary celebration, and you only need to pay 550 million for the discount. I'm sorry, I was just kidding you. Hearing this, a strong killing intent instantly burst out in Dao Bai's eyes. Then you will pay a terrible price for this. Quote. Ding. Congratulations, the achievement quest, Peach's Frustration, has been triggered. Quote. Mission description. Defeat Momo Bai under normal conditions. Reward. Pain control. Pain control can control the pain perception of self or the target, and the control range is plus or minus 5 times. Cows. Li Shu called Niu Pai in his heart, but before he could remember the last word, the nose of the battle smelled an extremely dangerous breath. The peach in front of him has lost his trace. Not good. I haven't had time to take painkillers yet. Bang. Due to the system's message prompt, Li Shu was briefly distracted for a moment, and it was too late to dodge the sneak attack from behind. The huge pain that hurt his heart filled his entire nerves, and a powerful force ran through his whole body. Centered on the back spine, it spreads wildly in all directions. The extreme pain magnified 100 times, the painful Li Shu couldn't even make a sound, his mouth opened wide silently, and he felt that his heart had stopped. The blood all over his body seemed to stop flowing under the blow, and the shattered spine and bones pierced his intestines and internal organs. He could feel the bleeding going on inside him. Li Shu almost fainted in pain. Fortunately, his ability to resist blows has improved, and the nerve center of the brain has not been fused because of this, and he still remains awake. But in the sober state, it is the most unbearable pain. He felt like he was supposed to die, his body's organs had stopped functioning and were decaying rapidly. Breathing became difficult, consciousness began to blur, and the fear of death hung over me. But the process of death only lasted for a moment, and a mysterious power suddenly surged from his body, which was quickly repairing his fatal wounds. With just one breath, all the fatal injuries were completely repaired, and the body functions and major organs were reborn. Fresh blood flowed rapidly in his body, and Li Shu felt that every cell became stronger. Under the perception of the eye of fighting, he found that his combat power had changed dramatically. Combat strength 144. From near death to rebirth, under the influence of the Saiyan bloodline, the combat power has skyrocketed by 45 points. Is this the Saiyan bloodline under the immortal body? Cow pie. Peach for nothing, right? I'm going to start getting stuck bug. I hope you can give some force. Huh. Dao Bai Bai looked at Li Shu in surprise, he obviously heard the sound of his spine shattering. Judging by his many years of experience in the industry, this kid will definitely die if he takes a solid punch from himself. Even if he doesn't die, he will end up crippled, so why is this kid excited in addition to the pain at the beginning? Li Shu felt that his heart was beating so fast, and the blood in his body began to boil, and a strong battle intent burst out in his heart. Under this strong fighting intent, even the pain that had been magnified 100 times seemed to have weakened a lot. It still hurts, but it's not so unbearable anymore. Not only that, but he also felt a fire burning in his heart, stimulating his brain nerves, making him extremely excited, stronger than taking stimulants. He has only one thought in his heart now, and that is to find someone to have a good fight. And as time passed, the fire in his heart burned more and more, and the strong and powerful heartbeat made him feel like thunder exploding in his ears. Is this the heart of the fight? Li Shu suddenly realized. His eyes looked at Dao Bai Bai sharply, and the monstrous battle intent from the depths of his heart had almost formed a substance. In the peachy white sight, a fiery red aura was rising around Li Shu's body, and in the aura that burned like a flame, an unparalleled battle intent burst out. Burning fighting spirit. The amazing scene in front of him shocked Dao Bai Bai. In the past 20 years, he has killed countless strong people, and there has never been a person like the man in front of him, which made his heart shake for the first time. Under the influence of the raging battle intent, he felt that his heartbeat had slowed down by half a beat, and the blood flowing in his body was not so smooth. He felt a chill. The man in front of him who was burning with war intent disappeared. Dao Bai Bai instantly retracted his mind, and under the influence of that strong fighting intent, he almost lost his mind and was defeated without a fight. On the front, Dao Bai Bai is worthy of being the #1 killer. He is extremely sensitive to the capture of killing intent. Although he is one step slower than Li Shu, he also responded in a very short time, crossing his arms in front of him. Bang! A force that is not weaker than him is transmitted in an instant. After blocking the blow, he took advantage of an elbow and began his counterattack. The two fought together in an instant, and the attack speed was so fast that ordinary people could only see some afterimages. Under the influence of the strong fighting intent of the fighting heart, although the pain was reduced to a certain extent, Li Shu was still grinning in pain, but fortunately, he could still bear it. After all, he's used to it. As the battle continued, Li Shu was more and more surprised, and Dao Bai Bai's control of power was simply wonderful. That's exactly what he's missing. If it weren't for the influence of the fighting spirit, Dao Bai Bai would not be able to exert his full strength, and he would probably have died several times. Cave wave. Dao Bai Bai kicked in the air, without the slightest surprise on his face, as if everything was under his control. Even the opponent's dodge was expected by him. He even predicted Li Shu's position in the next second. This is the rich combat experience he has accumulated over the past 20 years. I saw a purple light of energy burst out from his fingertips, but the target was empty. However, in the next second, Li Shu's figure appeared there, his face full of surprise. In this battle with Dao Baibai, he deeply realized his shortcomings. That is the lack of combat experience, and the opponent can easily predict his next move, which makes him fall into a very passive situation. You can be proud to die under my tricks. Dao Baibai put his hands behind his back, full of confidence in his blow. However, the picture he imagined did not happen, and a look of surprise appeared on his originally calm face. Seeing that the purple energy ray was about to hit, Li Shu also raised his hand and pointed at it, and a blue energy ray burst out from his fingertips. The two rays of energy collided together, and an explosion was instantaneous. How can you also be my whole wave? Dao Baibai said in shock. Li Shu fanned the smoke from the explosion in front of him, and said disapprovingly, "Isn't it just a matter of having hands? Is that all you have? What a disappointment for me." The confident trick was diffused by the opponent with the same means, which made him a little annoyed and rushed up to hand combat again. The corners of Li Shu's mouth hooked up a smile, and he instantly took a super painkiller and the two fought together again. After a few rounds, Momobeibai was secretly frightened, and he found that his opponent was growing at an alarming rate. He could clearly feel that Li Shu's control of his own strength had been raised to a higher level. It is no longer a brute force to fight against oneself, and there is no longer a flaw exposed by excessive force due to a mistake in judgment. The man in front of him has reached the realm of freedom in his own control. The shot is more aggressive and bold. This made it difficult for him to grasp Li Shu's flaws again, and he gradually became more and more difficult. And under the suppression of the opponent's strong fighting spirit, his strength can only be exerted 90%, and his body has been injured in many places. Although the opponent was more seriously injured than himself, he became more and more courageous and began to play with injuries for injuries. Just when Dao Bai had no choice but to take Li Shu suddenly made a mistake, revealing a huge flaw. This flaw is enough to be fatal. The peach-white eyes suddenly burst into a fine light, and he instantly seized this opportunity, and slammed his finger into Li Shu's chest like a knife. The familiar sensation, transmitted to him from his fingertips to his arms, it was the sensation that penetrated his chest, and he couldn't have been more familiar. Ah! The screams of pain, ringing in my ears, were so pleasant. This difficult opponent finally died in his own hands, and it seems that he will have to ask the Red Ribbon Legion to add money when he returns. Dao Bai pulled his arm out of his opponent's chest in a chic manner, and then put his hands behind his back and looked at the other party indifferently. However, he suddenly noticed that something was wrong, and the expression on Li Shu's face was not only painful, but also a trace of excitement. What's going on? The expression on the face of death is not like this. Shish, I'll admit, you're really strong. Li Shu coughed up blood as he spoke, and the injury on his chest was also recovering at a speed visible to the naked eye. This scene directly made Dao Bai stupid. I've learned a lot from you. Li Shu took out another immortal bean and swallowed it in his abdomen, and the injuries on his body immediately recovered as before, and his state returned to his peak. Dao Baibai's shocked eyes were about to burst out, and a retreat sprouted in his heart. Not only did he not die when his heart was pierced, but he recovered instantly. Not only that, but the physical strength and condition are back to the peak. How can this be fought? Combat strength. 191. Hehe. Feeling the increase in combat power again, Li Shu smiled, took out another immortal bean, and threw it to Dao Baibai. This immortal bean can bring you back to your peak state. I know you're confused right now, but don't be confused. Come, I'll give you another chance to kill me. Quote. Dao Baibai only hesitated for a few seconds before eating the magical bean. A miraculous thing happened. The injuries on his body recovered instantly, and the physical strength that had been consumed by most of them was instantly filled, and his state returned to his peak. You're arrogant. Momobai laughed. I was able to kill you twice, and now I can kill you twice. The moment he finished speaking, Dao Baibai attacked again, and said with a hideous face, I don't believe that you can be reborn infinitely. This simply doesn't make sense. You must have paid a terrible price. However, in this encounter, he was horrified to find that the other party had become stronger again. Not only is he free to control his own strength, but he has also reached the peak of wonder like himself. Every punch, every kick, without the slightest waste of power, is just right. Counting the cultivation time, it took him more than 40 years to get to this point. I can't see his movements clearly. Dao Baibai is more and more frightened. From the beginning he pressed Li Shu to beat, and now it has become Li Shu pressing him to beat. In the face of Li Shu's stormy attack, he began to be a little powerless to parry. Soon he showed his flaws, and was keenly captured by his opponent, and a sharp whip leg knocked him hundreds of meters away and fell directly into the sea. However, the opponent's attack did not end, and they actually took off into the air and chased after them. Sky Dance. Crane Immortal Flow's Sky Dance Technique. Dao Baibai was taken aback, and hurriedly dived underwater. He had already had the idea of retreating, and planned to escape by water. I saw Li Shu raise his hand and point, and shoot out several rays of energy towards the sea. Dao Bai fled in embarrassment. His body was pierced in many places, blood flowed profusely, and his face was full of pain and fear. For the first time, he felt the fear of death. Is that all there is to it? It's disappointing. Li Shu's voice passed through the seawater and into Tao Bai's ears, making him angry. Why can't you beat to death, but you still get stronger and stronger, and you still have to recover your strength, which is something that normal people can beat. Dao Baibai was angry, his heart was full of grievances, and he knew that now was not the time to talk back. He swam wildly in the water, and the pain from the wound from time to time made him grin. Want to run, such a good sparring partner, how could Li Shu let it go, and rushed into the sea in an instant. With almighty breathing, he is not his opponent in the water. Coupled with the fact that he was pierced in many places on his body, Dao Baibai was quickly caught up by Li Shu. He looked back in horror, even more frightened and angry. I saw that the other party ate another fairy bean, and then raised his hand to shoot. He couldn't do it at all in the water, and after dodging a few attacks with difficulty, he was hit by the energy ray again. The pain was so severe that he couldn't help but open his mouth wide, and the infusion of seawater made him cough violently. Seeing that Dao Baibai was about to die, Li Shu hurriedly rushed over, then rushed to the sky, rescued it back to the ground, and then fed a fairy bean. Dao Baibai, who was on the verge of death, was instantly resurrected with full blood, and he looked at this man in horror. Why did you save me again and again? I know you're confused, but don't be confused. Come on, kill me a few more times. Li Shu added. I won't fight back this time. Seeing Dao Baibai's suspicious face and his refusal to make a move, Li Shu collected the burning battle intent generated by the heart of fighting, and said, You have to seize the opportunity, you can't leave if you don't kill me. Hearing this, Dao Baibai's face suddenly turned hideous. Then I will fulfill you. Immediately. I saw Dao Baibai roar, and the muscles in his body instantly swelled up, and a powerful energy was converging at his fingertips. He was frantically accumulating, gathering all the strength of his body at his fingertips. The entire process of charging up lasted for a minute, and it was his most powerful move. I saw a fist-thick pillar of purple energy light gushing out from between his fingers, piercing Li Shu's heart in an instant. Dao Baibai's face was full of disbelief. The other party really didn't resist. Quote exclamation mark. The time limit of super painkillers has passed. The pain was magnified 100-fold, which made Li Shu feel unbearable. His heart and brain were stopped instantly. He lost the supply of his heart, the blood began to stop flowing, and his pupils began to dilate. He experienced the feeling of death again. But the process lasted only a second, and he was rejuvenated. Combat power soars again. Combat strength. 234. In the peachy sight, Li Shu was obviously in great pain, but he could always find a trace of pleasure and excitement from the painful to the distorted face. What kind of metamorphosis is this? Dao Baibai couldn't understand it, but he knew that no matter whether Li Shu would die under the whole wave of his full blow, he would have to leave here. He could feel that the other party's aura was a little stronger again. If you continue to stay here, even if you don't get killed by the other party, you will be tired to death. Escape. Without the slightest hesitation, Dao Baibai pulled up the stone pillar inserted into the ground, threw it into the sky, and then jumped and stood on it. It hurts, but it's really cool. Li Shu, who had eased up, was about to get stuck with the bug a few more times, but he saw Dao Baibai escape. How can this work? At the same time, a voice that stunned him sounded in his head. Ding! A system bug has been detected and is being fixed. Fix the bug that actively seeking death can still improve combat effectiveness. Li Shu, maid, I've only been stuck 3 times, don't you want to be so ruthless in the system? But Li Shu still didn't plan to give up, and finally overcame 100 times the pain, and only got stuck 3 times. He was unwilling, he decided to try again. Let's see how far this bug has been fixed. Li Shu suddenly rose into the sky, caught up with Dao Baibai, and grabbed it like a chicken in his hand under the frightened face of the other party. I said, you can't leave without killing me. Dao Baibai was desperate, he felt that the man in front of him was simply a demon. After eating another fairy bean, Tao Bai's state returned to its peak, but he was not happy at all in his heart, only deep fear and despair. Kill and can't kill, fight and can't fight, and escape and can't escape. In his 20 years in the industry, he has never been so desperate as he is today. This time, you first beat me to a serious injury, and then you use the same move just now to kill me, understand? Got it. Dao Baibai completely lost the demeanor of the world's #1 killer, and nodded numbly. Wait a minute. Li Shu slapped the rushing Dao Bai away, and said, I'll knock a medicine first. Alright, let's get started. Dao Baibai was very angry, but soon like a deflated ball, he accepted his fate. Hey, be serious, you're the #1 killer in the world. Your attack is too weak, do you understand with all your strength? Are you hungry? Would you like to give you some food first? Li Shu said dissatisfiedly. I don't know if it's because the combat effectiveness has improved, or if Dao Bai has lost his fighting spirit. The attack that originally seemed to Li Shu to be sharp hit him, but it can't bring much damage at this moment. Dao Baibai was very angry, very aggrieved, and felt a great shame. This made his attack a little more aggressive. Li Shu was hit by him like a sandbag, but he would resist any attacks on his face and lower yin. In this way, under the full output of 10 minutes, Dao Baibai was tired and paralyzed. Li Shu was finally seriously injured by him, and at the same time gave Dao Baibai a fairy bean, which restored his state to the peak. A wave of purple energy pierced his heart again. After being reborn, Li Shu regretted to find that his combat effectiveness had only increased by 8 points. Combat effectiveness, 249. Sure enough, this is a bug, and it can't be brushed endlessly. In my memory, it seems that there was a bug in Vegetaka. That's all. Li Shu didn't feel too disappointed, it was originally a bug, and he was already satisfied if he could brush it 3 times. Fix it, it's fixed, he has a lot of opponents in the future. With the addition of Immortal Body, he will only get stronger and stronger. As long as the level of Immortal Body is raised, I am afraid that even the destructive power of the Destruction God and the erasure of the whole king will not be able to kill him. His only weakness is the seal. Once sealed, it's terrible. This reminded him of the plot that was going to happen next, the great demon King Vic. It's sealed in the rice cooker by the magic wave, it's just miserable. Looking at the panting Dao Baibai, Li Shu raised his hand and pointed, and a ray of energy pierced his heart. A man who has lost his value and wants to kill himself, he will not be merciful. Ding. Achievement ring. Punish evil. Current progress 117 300ths. Quote. Ding. Congratulations, the achievement quest, Peach's frustration has been overfulfilled. Quote. Mission reward. Pain control. +8 achievement. Bonus quest reward. Pain control has been upgraded to Pain control LV1. Bonus achievement +10. Pain manipulation LV1 can control the pain perception of self or the target, and the control range is ±8 times. Well, Li Shu was very pleasantly surprised, but he didn't expect that there was such a thing as overcompleting the task. 107 achievement points. Li Shu was in a good mood, and directly threw the peach white corpse into the sea to feed the sharks. Lying on the beach recliner again, Li Shu waited for the turtle immortal to come back, and while Mei Zizi began to consume. Raise the primary immortal bean jar. At the rate at which he consumes immortal beans, the yield of 1 bean a day is really not enough. System. Do you spend 50 achievements to upgrade beginner bean can to intermediate bean can? The success rate of this increase, 65%. Li Shu breathed a sigh of relief. Fortunately it is not 99%, this probability seems quite normal. However, for the sake of insurance, Li Shu did not be reckless directly, but drank a bottle of blessing potion. Blessing potion, for 1 minute, your luck will be increased slightly. There is no specific value to show, and Li Shu is not sure how much the success rate has increased. But he still decided to give it a go. It doesn't matter if he fails, he is about to have 5,000 achievement points in his account, 50 points is just a small matter. Yes, ascending. Congratulations. Upgrade successfully and get a new item, Intermediate Fairy Bean can. Quote. Intermediate Immortal Bean can automatically produce 2 immortal beans per day. Ness. Li Shu jumped up happily and shook his fist fiercely. Just as he was preparing his next plan, a wave of invisibility epiphany potion, he suddenly saw the item in the corner that he regretted. Super Divine Water with the power of poison, it stimulates people's potential, and is recommended for people with pure hearts. Carry the past and take off on the spot, and you can't resist the plastic monument in place. At that time, because of the 100-fold pain, he gave up using it, and almost forgot about it. But now it's different, he has Super Painkiller. Li Shu touched his chin. Can you still poison me? Without any worries, Li Shu decisively dried up the 500 milliliters Super Divine Water with painkillers. 5 minutes later, as soon as the expiration of the painkiller ended, Li Shu's face changed drastically. It was an indescribable pain, tens of thousands of times more painful than giving birth. Fortunately, he was prepared and hurriedly swallowed the prepared painkillers. Phew, Li Shu let out a sigh of relief, and suddenly felt that super painkiller was really a good thing, but unfortunately there were only a dozen pills left. However, when he thought that the wish of not afraid of pain was about to come true, Li Shu's mood was much happier. 5 minutes later, when the time came, Li Shu took the painkiller on time. In this way, the whole process lasted for about 30 minutes, and Li Shu felt that the effect of Super Divine Water was over. That's it. Ha ha ha. That's it. Super Painkiller. Li Shu was refreshed, and after looking at the combat power above his head, his mood became even happier. Combat Strength. 372. Invincible. I just don't know how much the potential has improved. And where is it reflected? Li Shu was too lazy to think about it, and he would naturally be able to know in the future. He still has one more thing to do. Boost Invisibility Epiphany Potion. Success. Congratulations, you have obtained a new item, Invisibility 30% Epiphany Potion. Keep improving. Congratulations, you have obtained a new item, Invisibility 50% Epiphany Potion. Keep improving. Insufficient achievement points, failed promotion. Looking at the remaining 7 achievements, Li Shu was still unsatisfied. After saving for so long, I've been happy for so many times, and I haven't been addicted at all. 50% chance of having an epiphany, give it a go. Li Shu fell into deep thought, but quickly rejected it, feeling that it was still 100% more reliable. To be honest, he was just a little curious about stealth, and he just wanted to feel what it was like to be invisible, not so urgent. Absolutely no other weird thoughts. Li Shu, who had nothing to do, was a little bored, and looked at the collector's edition of the cool magazine collected from the Purple Ninja to help the Turtle Immortals check the quality. Looking at it, Li Shu fell asleep. Red Ribbon Corps Headquarters. Momo died in vain. Black Adjutant Brack spoke out about the latest news he had received. What? This bullshit is the first killer in the world. The commander-in-chief who got the news was a little angry. Things have come to this point, do you want to ask Dr. Grow? Brock asked with a solemn face. The commander-in-chief was silent, he didn't want to alarm the doctor, otherwise even if he collected the Dragon Balls, that wish would not be his turn. Looking at his short figure of 1.3 meters in the mirror, the commander-in-chief's face distorted. That's right, the purpose of collecting Dragon Balls at all costs is to grow taller, not to rule the world. He did not dare to tell anyone else about his true purpose. But the current situation makes it difficult for him to choose. Send someone to Dr. Grow to ask for the latest model of android, and say that we have a strong enemy, but don't tell him the truth. Li Shu, who was basking in the sun on the beach, didn't know that because of him, the original plot had changed. Li Shu, what are you doing here? Qin's surprised voice woke Li Shu from his sleep. By this time, it was already dark. Looking at the Turtle Immortal, Qin, and Lan Qi who greeted him, Li Shu had a smile on his face, and hurriedly put away the cool magazine beside him. I'm in a little trouble, so I'm coming to see you guys. Teacher Wushan, this is my gift to honor you. Huh, the turtle immortal's eyes widened suddenly, and he exclaimed, where did you get it? These are all out-of-print treasures. Quote. Hey, picked it up. Where's Wukong? Kling looked at Li Shu, who was alone, and couldn't help asking. Immediately, Li Shu briefly told everyone about Masruda's experience. After learning that Wukong had gone to Kalanta to cultivate, Klin was suddenly a little moved, and planned to leave tomorrow. Diviner. The turtle immortal looked at Li Shu with some surprise, and then said, you ask the right person, she is my sister, I will take you to find her tomorrow. Quote. Early the next morning, Clint said goodbye to the turtle immortals, Lan Chi, and Li Shu, and set off for Kalanta. Let's go too. The turtle fairy jumped on the turtle's back, intending to swim to the opposite shore and then transfer to the plane. Teacher Wushan, do you know the dancing technique? Li Shu flew in front of the turtle immortal and stopped him, such a schedule was too slow. Sky dance. The turtle immortal looked at Li Shu in surprise and asked, have you met that old guy from the crane immortal? I accidentally saw a three-eyed weirdo and an old man who could fly, so I secretly learned a trick, which is very convenient. Li Shu casually made up a reason. Three-eyed stranger. It should be the old guy's apprentice. Quote. I didn't expect you to steal his sky dance. Li Shu said calmly. I also killed his younger brother. Quote. Well, you actually killed his brother. The turtle immortal reacted suddenly, and looked at Li Shu in shock. You killed Dao Baibai. Li Shu pointed to the sea in front of him. Just yesterday, before you came back, the Red Ribbon Legion hired him to kill me, and then he died, and I threw him into the sea to feed the sharks. Quote. The turtle immortal frowned, and said worriedly, that old guy of the crane immortal is very vindictive, and he has a bad heart, and he will definitely take revenge on you when he finds out. Li Shu smiled, he was not worried about the revenge of the crane immortals. With his current combat power of up to 372, it can be said that before Raditz arrived on Earth, he was an invincible existence. As for the great demon king of Vic, Li Shu calculated based on the current time that the combat power would not exceed 300 at most. And 372 combat power is just his combat power under normal conditions. So, Teacher Wushan, do you want to learn the dancing void technique? Li Shu asked with a smile. He always felt that the current scene was a bit weird. After all, the turtle immortal was his teacher. Ahem. The turtle immortal coughed dryly, suddenly got up from the ground, and said leisurely, I'm a martial arts teacher who is called the god of martial arts, and it's just a dance technique, I'll take a look. It's just that I don't bother to learn the old guy's skills. Quote. The dancing void technique is just a kind of control of qi. I can create the turtle school qigong, and the dancing void technique alone will not be difficult for me. But after all these years, I can see it too. Li Shu looked at the turtle immortal in astonishment, and sure enough, a person's appearance was extremely confusing. This old man is hiding quite deeply. Combat power. 100. Looking at the constant combat power above the head of the turtle immortal, Li Shu always felt that this old man was hiding his strength. But think about it, if you are not a master of qi cultivation, how can you live to be hundreds of years old? If I remember correctly, in the original book, Wukong and others controlled the breath freely, which was enlightened by the cultivation of the turtle immortals. Immediately, the two of them rose to the sky and flew towards the palace of the diviner mother-in-law. Ding. Side check in quest. Divination Granny's palace, completed. Quote. Get the reward. Super Earthling bloodline. As soon as I arrived at my destination, the sound of the system sounded. At the same time, Li Shu felt a strange feeling in his body that was indescribable. Combat strength. 372. He felt the combat power, and there was no change. So, what are the characteristics of the Super Earthling bloodline? Li Shu didn't want to understand it. Fortunately, he didn't want to, and when the time came, it would naturally be reflected. Looking at the majestic palace in front of him, Li Shu could hardly imagine how rich the fortune-telling mother-in-law was. Li Shu, I have to remind you that the divination mother-in-law is very greedy for money, and I want to ask her for help, even if I am her younger brother, not a penny will be less. Hearing what the turtle immortal said, a fragment flashed in Li Shu's memory, and he suddenly remembered that in this plot, the dead grandpa's son Gohan would appear. In addition to her divination abilities, she can also travel back and forth between the yin and yang worlds, bringing the dead from the underworld to the yang for a stay of 24 hours. The palace of the diviner mother-in-law is located in the middle of a desert, but there is a long queue of people who come to ask him for divination. Even if the turtle Immortal is her younger brother, she is honestly lining up. Although the queue was very long, the progress was very fast, and it was Li Shu's turn an hour later. Is that you? Long time no see, sister. My poor ghost brother, you know my rules, it seems that you can't pay for divination. Li Shu asked curiously, how much does it cost? 10 million. The divination mother-in-law laughed. What, 10 million? Li Shu is like a stunned old iron, it's not that he can't get this money, but it's too expensive. It doesn't matter if you can't get the money, in addition to the hobby of money, I also like to watch competitions, as long as you can defeat my 5 warriors, I can give you a divination for free. Li Shu, who was about to take out the money and let the divination mother-in-law know that she was not a poor ghost, suddenly changed her mind. He remembered that Son Gohan was one of the 5 warriors of the divination mother-in-law. As for the other 4 fighters, he couldn't remember any of them. Okay, then I'm going to challenge your 5 warriors. Li Shu nodded and agreed. The divination mother-in-law had a happy expression on her face, and she had a good show to watch. My poor ghost brother, are you going to play too? The soothsayer looked at the turtle Immortal. The turtle Immortal said angrily, are you talking to your brother like this? Quote, yes, my poor ghost brother, are you going to play? I'll do it alone. Li Shu took over the conversation, the turtle Immortal is my teacher, and against your 5 warriors, you don't need my teacher to play at all. Are you going to defeat my 5 warriors with your own strength? The diviner-in-law smiled and said, young people nowadays are really confident. Quote, come with me, then. Congratulations, trigger the achievement quest, 1 enemy 5 with 1 hand, and defeat the 5 warriors of the divination mother-in-law with 1 hand under normal conditions. Mission reward. Lucky aura. Lucky aura, lucky boost slightly. Hey, this is a good thing, it is equivalent to the effect of a permanent blessing potion. If nothing else, the skill of lucky aura can continue to be improved. I just don't know how many levels it will be raised, and it can be comparable to the effect of super blessing potion. Li Shu felt that it was necessary to smash all the 5,000 achievement points that were about to arrive on it. Luck is a thing that has a wide range of applications. No one dislikes their luck. Li Shu is naturally no exception. Granny Soothsayer, let's call your first warrior into the field. Li Shu was very greedy for the skill of lucky aura and couldn't wait to urge. The soothsayer smiled and said, Vampire man, you can come out. Quote, vampire people, is there still this thing in Dragon Ball? Li Shu didn't remember at all, and it didn't take long to see a purple bat, fluttering, and flying out with its wings. As soon as he turned into a vampire man with a blue face and fangs, he looked at Li Shu with a hideous face, his saliva flowed all over the ground, and he danced as if no one was around. Combat strength. 65. Can you begin? Li Shu asked. Alright, it's game on. Bang. The moment the divination mother-in-law's words fell, Li Shu disappeared in an instant, and a punch was punched. The vampire man was seriously injured and near death, and fell off the sidelines. Diviner's mother-in-law, Omega D Omega. Quote, Turtle Immortal, Omega D Omega. Quote, next, Li Shu turned his back with 1 hand and said calmly. A trace of cold sweat broke out on the forehead of the diviner, and she pretended to be relaxed. You really have some ability, but my next warrior has special skills, you have to be careful. Li Shu, can you start? Can you see him? The soothsayer was a little shocked, she was a transparent person. Combat strength. 70. Li Shu can't see it, but he can see the combat strength, and perceive the general direction of the opponent through Qi sense. Yes, so is it okay to start? Li Shu urged. Cold sweat broke out on the mother-in-law's forehead again, and the young man in front of her looked calm, not like she was lying. And there is no need to lie at all. Game on, the diviner mother-in-law said a little nervously. Bang, another punch, simple and unpretentious, without any bells and whistles, hitting the target accurately. The battle ended as soon as it began. Next, Li Shu said again. Looking at Li Shu's relaxed and calm appearance, the turtle immortal was greatly shocked. He put himself in his shoes and thought about it. He couldn't defeat the transparent man with such a clean punch. This kid's strength has improved a lot. I'm afraid that even if I do my best, I am no match for him. The turtle immortal was secretly surprised. He thought that Wukong already had amazing potential, and his future achievements were limitless. But compared with the teenager in front of him, he is not at the same level at all. How the hell does this monster practice? On the other side, the shock of the divination mother-in-law was no less than that of the turtle immortal. Although the battle ended quickly, she didn't know why, but she just enjoyed watching it. No wonder I have the confidence to defeat 5 with 1 against 1, worthy of being my brother's disciple. Even if my brother plays in person, he can't defeat them so cleanly. The divination mother-in-law said with some excitement. My third warrior, it's not so easy for you to defeat. Come with me, the competition venue is not here. Li Shu hurriedly followed. He just wanted to settle the battle as soon as possible and get the reward, as well as the whereabouts of the last Dragon Ball. By the way, my poor ghost brother, you borrowed 10 yuan from me 30 years ago, shouldn't you pay me back? The diviner mother-in-law, who was sitting on the crystal ball and drifting in front of her, suddenly said. The turtle immortal, suddenly embarrassed, wiped the cold sweat that didn't exist on his forehead, and said dissatisfiedly, how do you remember this incident? I'll pay you back. I'm your brother, can't the 10 yuan be considered for me? The divination mother-in-law smiled and said, okay, for the sake of you accepting such an outstanding disciple, then just pay me back 8 yuan. Li Shu held back a smile all the way and listened to the conversation between the two sisters and brothers. Led by the soothsayer, they reached the end of a corridor in the palace and opened a door. Welcome to the Hell's Toilet, where you need to defeat my third warrior in this narrow tunnel of bones. Don't say I didn't warn you. This swamp is highly poisonous, and if you fall down, there will be no bones left. The soothsayer laughed again. However, Li Shu's face was still very calm, and he didn't see the expression of fear, which made the divination mother-in-law a little disappointed. Diviner, I don't mean to be offended, I just want to save some time. Can I let the rest of your warriors go together? After thinking about it, Li Shu added, I can pay a sum of money. Quote. Oh, the soothsayer said in surprise, have you thought about it? The remaining 3 warriors are all my most powerful warriors, and even your teacher, the turtle immortal, can't face the 3 of them at the same time. Although your strength has surpassed that of the turtle immortals, I don't think you can defeat 3 with 1. Young man, Li Shu directly took out a universal capsule and threw it on the ground, interrupting the chatter of the diviner-in-law. This is 2 million, the divination mother-in-law, you can let them go together. Looking at the piles of banknotes on the ground, the diviner mother-in-law smiled, oh hee, as you wish, I also want to see your arrogant capital. But I have to explain in advance, if you fail, unless you give me 100 million, I won't help you with divination, arrogance has to pay a price. Okay, Li Shu didn't hesitate for a second, so he nodded and agreed. Money is now just a number for Li Shu, and he is not interested in money. If he could trade money for time, he would be more than happy. No way, lucky aura is too tempting. The soothsayer then sealed her hands and shouted, come out, mummy. Devilman, mask man. As the voice fell, a coffin flew out, and a mummy jumped out of it. Then came the appearance of the devil man and the masked man. Mummy combat strength, 90. Devilman combat strength, 110. Masked man combat strength, 135. The game begins. This time, the soothsayer quickly announced the beginning. Li Shu just glanced at the mummy and the demon man, and then his gaze fell on the masked man, and the circle of light above his head already said everything. It was the dead grandfather, Son Gohan. Do you want to save some face for grandpa? Li Shu couldn't help but think about it, and he didn't just punch one by one like the previous 2 games. Truly, the mummy let out a strange laugh. Li Shu quickly made a decision, let's talk about these 2 seconds first. The poor mummified man, who had just appeared for less than 2 seconds, laughed a few times, and only said one word, and was punched by Li Shu and lost his combat effectiveness, squirming on the ground like an earthworm. He didn't even see the other party's movements. The demon man's face changed suddenly, and he was ready to wait for the mummy man to finish speaking, and he would say a few words himself. But now he couldn't help but swallow his saliva, couldn't say a word, and looked at the man in shock. He didn't even see the other party's movements. Bang! With a muffled thud, the demon man collapsed in a daze. Who am I? What am I here for? These were the only two thoughts he had before he fell unconscious. The divination mother-in-law was completely shocked, and now she suddenly realized that she had completely underestimated Li Shu's strength. His warriors are not at all on the same level as Li Shu. What a horrible boy. The calmness on the face of the diviner mother-in-law disappeared, leaving only an indelible shock. The turtle immortal was already shocked by Li Shu's successive performances today, and he looked at it dumbfounded, and his jaw was about to fall to the ground. He has a sense of qi, whether it is a mummy or a demon man, his strength is only slightly weaker than himself. As a result, he was knocked down by Li Shu with a punch, and he had no power to fight back. What surprised him the most was that even he couldn't see Li Shu's movements clearly. It's so fast. He felt that if he faced Li Shu, he was afraid that it would be the same fate. Such an astonishing growth rate is really shocking, and it can no longer be described as a genius. Looking at Li Shu's tail wrapped around his waist, the turtle immortal was wondering, could this guy not be a human at all? Sun Gohan under the mask, his forehead was already covered with cold sweat. He didn't expect that after only a few years, the kid in front of him had grown to such a point. But soon he was relieved. I throw in the towel. Sun Gohan surrendered decisively and wanted to save a little face for himself. He knew that he could not be Li Shu's opponent at all. He also saw Li Shu's embarrassment, and he recognized himself. As an elder, not embarrassing the younger generation is the most basic quality, although many times he can't help himself, but at least now, he can do it. Hearing Sun Gohan's surrender, Li Shu breathed a sigh of relief. Grandpa was still as empathetic as ever. Congratulations, the achievement mission, one enemy 5 with one hand, has been completed. Get reward. Lucky aura. Lucky aura, lucky boost slightly. +8 achievement. Grandpa. The reward arrived, and seeing Sun Gohan, who he hadn't seen for many years, Li Shu had a happy smile on his face. Sun Gohan took off the mask on his face and smiled kindly. If Wukong is here, he will definitely not recognize me. The two looked at each other and suddenly smiled even brighter. Is Goku okay? Sun Gohan couldn't help asking. Li Shu said with a smile, he is practicing in Kalanta. Quote. Kurinta, it seems that he has also improved a lot in recent years. After a short period of reminiscence, Sun Gohan was grateful to the turtle immortals again. The divination mother-in-law sighed. She didn't blame Sun Gohan for surrendering, and she knew that there was no intention of continuing to compare. After a short period of reminiscence, Sun Gohan said goodbye to everyone. It's time for me to go back, but unfortunately I didn't see Wukong. Quote. Ding. Congratulations, you triggered the limited time achievement quest, Sun Gohan's missing. Quote. Mission description. Please bring Sun Wukong to Sun Gohan in front of Sun Gohan within 10 minutes. Quest reward. Aura boosting capsule. Aura enhancement capsule. After taking it, there is a small chance to increase aura skills. Reminder. If the mission fails, the reward will disappear permanently. Wait a minute, I'll bring Goku here. Li Shu hurriedly dropped a sentence, and disappeared in place. You must wait for me to come back. 10 minutes, no, 5 minutes is fine. This kid has changed a lot. He used to like to be lazy, he. Sun Gohan smiled kindly. Fortunately, the palace of the soothsayer is not too far from Kalanta. With the blessing of the flying buff, Li Shu's flight speed is extremely fast. Boost flying buff. But to be on the safe side, Li Shu decided to try to see if the achievement points were enough to increase once. Do you spend 15 achievement points to increase flying buff to flying buff LV1? Yes. Li Shu's face was happy. He didn't expect that the achievement value was just right, not much at all, not much at all. Moreover, there is no probability of skill improvement, and there is no need to worry about the achievement value being lost. Success. Congratulations. Obtain a new skill, Flying Buff LV1. Quote. Flying Buff LV1 increases flight speed by 15%. With a 5% increase, Li Shu's speed is much faster. After 3 minutes, he came to Kalanta, sensed Goku's chi, and was in the middle of Kalanta, as if he had just climbed halfway. Ha, Why is Yamcha here? Quote, forget it, I don't have time to care about him, I'm in a hurry now. Goku, it's urgent, I'll climb it again. Come with me first, Grandpa wants to see you. Li Shu didn't say a word, grabbed Wukong's tail, and flew back. Goku looked confused. A third of Kalanta, Yamcha also saw Li Shu, and he hurriedly shouted, Li Shu. Don't go, I'm going to challenge you. I'm sure I'll win this time. Quote, how can he fly? But soon, Yamcha was shocked. Listening to Yamcha's shout, Li Shu instantly remembered how he forgot Yamcha's achievement task. In the achievement quest, beat Yamcha. In the next 3 battles with Yamcha, you will be able to defeat the enemy with 1 move, and you will receive a reward explosion. Explosion in this state, the combat power is doubled, and the skill power is doubled. There should be time. Li Shu thought about it, turned around and flew back, kicking Yamcha off the Kalanta with 1 kick. And said, Yamcha, you've lost again, and when you climb to the top of the Kalan Tower and drink the super holy water, you'll definitely be able to defeat me. You sneak attack. Not this time. I'm going to fight you with dignity. Yamcha shouted angrily. However, Li Shu had already flown away and had not heard it at all. It took only 5 minutes and 27 seconds from Li Shu's departure to return to the palace of the divination mother-in-law. It's 27 seconds over. The divination mother-in-law looked at the pocket watch in her hand and said with a smirk. Wukong also reacted from his confusion at this time, and the moment he saw his grandfather Son Gohan, he hurriedly pounced. Grandpa, I want to kill you. Quote, ding, congratulations, the limited time achievement mission, Son Gohan's missing, has been completed. Quote, get reward, aura enhancement capsule. Li Shu couldn't help but smile like an ant on his face. I hope everyone will support it and subscribe more.